Good morning, all. The session will be starting in next 5 minutes. Good morning, all. Actually, we are waiting for the presence of Minister, sir. He's in a meeting with Prime Minister, so it will take another 5 minutes. I request everyone's patient here. By the meantime, I'd like to present about our upcoming event. So we are going ahead with the video about our upcoming event.
Collaboration, ready to inspire minds with latest technologies. We have come a long way to get to where we are today. A gateway to all reverse commerce businesses. What drives us forward? Innovation that can power a greener nature together. Discovery knows about sustainable circular economy. Recommerce Expo has brought the individuals together with the support of Government of India to discuss a healthier and more sustainable market. Exchanging ideas, latest technologies, and bringing culture to explore the unknowns. Welcome you to Experience the Experience.
So before we start the webinar, I just like to give some quick insights about it. If we have any any questions regarding the presentations, like I request everyone to upload it in the Q&A box, which is right in the bottom of the table. And if you want to interact with one another, please use the chat box, and questions only in the Q&A box will be answered. So accordingly, you can place it, and the chat box will be only for interaction, nothing more than that. So if you want to raise any question, please upload it in the Q&A box, so everyone can be, the panelists also will be aware of the questions, and all the questions will be answered. Thanks for your patience. Like another 2-3 minutes, like we'll be starting with our session. I expect everyone's cooperation. Thank you so much. Sincere apologies for the delay. Actually, since there is a delay from minister's side, we are facing it. He is in a meeting, so due to that only it's getting delayed. So we'll go ahead. We can have like an interaction session in the chat box. Everyone can just introduce yourself, so everyone will be aware of one another. And thank you all for being here today with us, and we are delighted to welcome you all to the Recommerce Global Renewable Energy Virtual Conference. Before we get started, I'd like to express my sincere appreciation to all of you who have generously helped us make this event come together to become a success. Our supporting partners: Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Karnataka Pollution Control Board, and Bureau of Indian Standards. Our event partner, Karnataka Renewable Energy Development Limited, bronze partner, Green Waves Environmental Solutions, and association partners, Material Recycling Association of India, Indian Wind Power Association, National Solar Energy Federation of India, RER Renewable Energy Association, Renewable Energy Promotion Association, Renewable Energy Society of India, and Solar Thermal Federation of India. We could haven't done it without you. Thank you so much. And before starting the event, let me introduce about Urdhva Management and the brand Recommerce, as it is an internationally recognized B2B conference and exhibition platform for reverse commerce, recycling, sustainable and circular businesses. We are committed to bridging the gap among firms in the reuse and recycling industry with the support of government agencies, private players, and the public. We hope to bring the best practices into the industry for better living for generations to come. I'd like to give some insights about our upcoming event, Globe's biggest exhibition and conference for recycling, the third edition of Recommerce Expo. After successful completion of 2 editions with participation from leaders across the globe, this year we are making it even in a larger scale. It's a 3-day exhibition and conference focused on 3 different streams: e-waste recycling and refurbishment, battery waste recycling and refurbishment, and automotive recycling and refurbishment, with 70 plus stalls, 50 plus renowned speakers, 600 plus delegates, and 4,000 plus visitors, scheduled on 18th, 19th, and 20th May at the Lalita Shop, Bangalore. It is a gateway to all reverse commerce businesses in India. This event will give you a stage to trade, debate, discuss about the refurbishment and repair, asset management, best in collection procedures, effective implementation of EPR, latest recycling technologies, material recovery solutions, end of life strategies, regulatory and business models, and chart out the way ahead for each sector. Further built in practices for recycling and refurbishing in the most effective way and pay the way towards sustainability and a circular economy. Allow me to present you a video about Recommerce Expo so you get more insights about it.
Biggest recycling expo conference and exhibition. Experience. A comprehensive collaboration ready to inspire minds with latest technologies. We have come a long way to get to where we are today. A gateway to all reverse commerce businesses in India. What drives us forward? Innovation that can power and greener nature together. Discover the unknowns about a sustainable circular economy. Recommerce Expo has brought the individuals together with the support of Government of India to discuss a healthier, happier, and more sustainable tomorrow, connecting people around, exchanging ideas, latest technologies, and bringing in a new culture.
I'll be sharing more details regarding the third edition of Recommerce Expo in the chat box. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. I'll be providing the contact details as well. And if you have any interest in taking part in the event, you can reach out to our team, so they'll be getting in touch with you. And we have already started our registrations. The exhibitors, we already have around 25 exhibitors who are taking part in it. So if anyone is interested, please do join us. And So cordially welcome to each of you. If you have any questions, please drop it in the Q&A box and suggestions. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Venkat Reddy Patel, founder and CEO of Urdhva Management, to address the audience. Over to you, sir.
Namaskar, everyone. Very good morning. Thank you, Honorable Minister Sir Sri Bhagwan Kubaji, for joining and giving your time for all of us. Honorable Minister Sri Bhagwan Kubaji is Honorable Minister for State, Government of India for renewable energy and chemicals and fertilizers. Along with him, we have the esteemed guest, Sri Chandrasekhar ji, representing the Ministry of Energy, Government of Karnataka. He is the head of, is the director of Energy Technical Wing. Also, we have Sri Rudrapaya ji, MD Credle. Credle is the Karnataka Renewable Energy Department, Development Department. We have Sri Jaideep ji, the chairman for the Solar Thermal Federation of India. And we have Rajnath Ram. He's representing Niti Aayog for us. I welcome all of you for this esteemed gathering. Recommerce is a platform which is envisioning and focusing in terms of creating sustainable and socially impactable businesses in India and globe. As of now, we have started with developing the community through awareness programs, conferences, exhibitions, and trade shows. Going further, we'll be coming up with multiple solutions to this industry to make it more transparent and to create a more viable ecosystem in terms of effectively understanding the scale of recyclability and reusability of each of the products. That's all. I would love to welcome all of you yet again to this esteemed gathering. Thank you, Chelsea. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome Sri Bhagavan Kuba, Sir, Honorable Minister of State, New and Renewable Energy, Chemicals and Fertilizers, Government of India, to deliver the special address. Thank you so much, sir, for your time and consideration. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, everybody. Global Renewable Energy Recycling Virtual Conference. In this conference, Sri G. Kumar Naik is present. Sri Rajnath Ram, Advisor Niti Aayog. Sri Rudrapaya, MD Credle. And Sri Venkat Reddy Patil of Urdhva Management Private Limited. And distinguished speakers from government bodies, associations, and participating delegates. It is indeed a great pleasure to present my chief guest address at the Recommerce Global Renewable Energy Recycling Virtual Conference. I am happy to know that the Urdhva Management Private Limited is organizing the summit for the benefit of key stakeholders of renewable energy industry. The main objective of the summit is to understand the latest technologies, policy frameworks, and ways to promote business cooperations and development in the areas of end-of-life solar modules and wind turbine recycling in India. Government of India has taken several steps to promote renewable energy in the country. With citizen-centric policy measures, today India has installed RE capacity of 151 gigawatt, which is more than 40% of total installed electricity capacity. By this, India has become the only country to achieve NDC's 9 years before stipulated time. Further, as declared by Honorable Prime Minister at COP26, India is set to achieve the ambitious target of 500 gigawatt of RE by 2030. This includes 280 gigawatt of solar and 140 gigawatt of wind. With these upcoming projects, today's conference on recycling of waste generated from renewable energy technologies is very pertinent and timely. As we move towards a larger deployment of renewable energy, We must have means and mechanisms to deal with the large amount of waste that will be generated as these technologies reach end of these useful lives. The concept of renewable energy is based on sustainable and environmentally benign use of our natural resources without a strategy for their end of life management. So-called green technologies like solar panels, electric vehicle batteries, and wind turbines will ultimately place the same unintended burden on our planet and economy as traditional commodities. It is crucial that we adequately plan, prepare, and design renewable energy systems for reuse, recycle, and proper end-of-life material management today itself to prevent environmental and economic burden in the future. Solar photovoltaic technology is currently the fastest growing renewable energy technology. Over 50 gigawatt of solar PV capacity is installed in India that is expected to grow to over 800 gigawatt by 2020 and 50. At this rate, by 2030, about 4 lakh tons of solar PV waste is anticipated to be generated in India annually, growing to about 1200 million tons per annum by 2050. Government of India has been implementing policies and programs for effective management and recycling of waste. Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, has laid down the vision for transitioning to a circular economy through recycling and reusing things, eliminating waste and improving resources efficiency. Many of the components of solar panels, glass, aluminum, silicon, other metals can be recycled and reused in manufacture of new solar panels. International Renewable Energy Agency estimates that by 2050, the global value of recoverable materials could exceed 15 billion USD. Therefore, recycling presents a tremendous economy and ecological opportunity. Solar panel waste is regarded as general electronic waste under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Further, the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy is working on an action plan to introduce a circular economy in solar panels. This should maximize the recovery of economy value from waste by recycling the usage, reusing them for new products. To unlock the benefits of such recycling, we would create an institutional framework to meet the expected surge in renewable energy waste in the coming years. This should encourage industries to invest in recycling and design equipment which is easier to dismantle, recycle, and reuse. We know from our ancestors, reuse and recycle, all these methods we inherited from the ages of our age. So I hope this conference will provide the right platform for all of you to discuss, deliberate, and exchange ideas and best practices for the benefit of the stakeholders of the sun rising industries. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable inputs and thank you for your time. We extremely honor your inputs. We believe the ministry is also working in terms of framing the framework for the policies in terms of this recycling of renewable energies. So we look forward for having your continuous support in all our initiatives. Thanks for your time. Chelsea, you can take it forward.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable time. And definitely it has enlightened the event, and we look forward for further association with the ministry. And next, we come with our next speaker, who has in-depth excellence of experience in the Department of Energy. Since Mr. Kumar Nayak was not able to be a part in the event, we have a representative from Department of Energy, Shri Chandrasekhar, Technical Director of Department of Energy, Government of Karnataka, to deliver the special address. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Shri Chandrasekhar. We are facing some technical issues. I request everyone's patience for 2 minutes. We'll get back soon. So we are facing some problem with Chandrasekhar sir's ID. So before that, we'll be going ahead with our next speaker. Our next speaker is a master in the Department of Renewable Energy, Professor Gopalakrishnan Iyer, President of Renewable Energy Promotion Association, who believes India can be unstoppable in the green energy development. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Gopalakrishnan Iyer. It gives me an immense pleasure to welcome you, sir. Over to you. So your voice is not audible. Sir, am I audible?
I think now I'm on.
Yes, you're on. Please turn the camera, sir. It will be fine.
Okay. I think the camera is on.
Camera is on, but it's the back side, sir.
Stop video, it says. How do you do it? Adhan camera.
Sir, it was fine previously.
No, I don't know. The camera is not getting on.
Kindly,
Can you see me now?
no, sir. Actually, the back camera is on.
I don't know why it is not on.
Just turn the camera. Please on the front camera. It will be fine.
Yeah. Now,
Ah,
yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Over to you.
Very good morning to all. I'm happy that I'm joining this particular conclave setup called Recommerce. And we are discussing issues pertaining to waste recycling. So key issues that the world must understand is currently people are talking in a big way for one of the renewable energy, that is solar. And the other key area that is under talk of the town is the electric vehicle. Two major areas which is under main progress or talk worldwide, and both needs to be addressed. Before I come to my pet topic of conversion of agro waste to energy, which is the favorite thing that I want, because there the circular economy can easily come, everything is set and we can really go. But before this, these two challenges I want to address to this forum. And the most important thing that we need to understand today is that we are, the government is discussing 280 gigawatt of solar capacity addition by 2030. And I think that is a conservative estimate, because it was us at REPA, Renewable Energy Promotion Association, who made that report called 100 gigawatt solar by 2022. And the journey started in 2009 when I first met Shyam Saranji at our forum of Empower Solar. So there, it was 2009 that I pushed the agenda that instead of 1200 megawatt, which was brought by Shyam Saranji on the table, we must go further in gigawatt scale. So when it was discussed, a lot of people were there, including some young politicians like Shaina NC and Kiran Rijiju, where they were in early stages of the career, and also people from the other side, had come. And, I wanted to send a message that solar is possible. But at the same time, we raised that time itself that we must also plan the recycling post the life of the solar cells. So basically what we are seeing today, the development is basically polycrystalline and monocrystalline silicon cells are being used predominantly, because I don't like the cadmium telluride, because telluride is a rare earth material and cadmium is again the nickel cadmium batteries. It is again a very difficult disposable element. So major issue, because there are companies, especially First Solar from US, which has been trying to push cadmium's telluride. And always I say a rare earth material cannot be used for mass production. A simple example, that when oil was in abundance in the past and gas now is still at least 300, 400 years, we can work on gas economy. These are all volume-based geological, I would say, raw material. And gas is still clean because it reduces your emission by 77%. In this moment, and we have to discuss the progress of solar. So while the generation side, there's a problem because solar only sun is available for 6 hours, at the max 8 hours in places like Rajasthan or the Ran of Kutch, western side. But otherwise, solar is only 6 hours. So again, we are talking that we will pump batteries and put it into the grid. So is it feasible? So my point comes to again the same point, that before recycling, let us understand what we are using. So 92% of deposit of lithium in the world, which is going into battery making, is again only available in 4 countries. And these countries are, number 1 is Australia, then comes Chile, then comes Argentina, and China is there at the 4th stage. So only these 4 countries account for 92% of the global deposit of lithium. So we have to be very careful that we are promoting these lithium ion batteries. And then the one is the rarity of the raw material. The second part is disposable. So both the issues come into picture because it's not very easy to dispose lithium batteries. And we have been struggling because the world, you see, India was considered to be a dumping site of lead waste from the lead acid batteries in the past. So we should not become the dumping ground of the world, and we create our own waste in the process. So we must start thinking on these lines, especially, how to use the solar, huge quantum. In fact, as per, it's like, we are talking of per megawatt, almost like 90,000 kgs of waste, something like that. So it could be that kind of volume that we may be dealing with in the future. And complex material, all of this will create a lot of trouble for us, because if we don't plan today, the tomorrow of or the future of ours after the life cycle, normal life cycle for solar, people are claiming 30 years, but I am telling you, deterioration is very fast. 25 years is also tough. In fact, I would recommend the government start relooking at the PPS with 25 years life cycle, because the end of life cycle plan for both solar PV systems and the lithium ion battery has to begin now, not later. So yes, the lobbies around have been promoting the lithium ion as the greatest solution on the planet. But I must tell you that even if a country like Australia and if China wants to go only EV, I'm telling you, the present entire world capacities of the lithium will be absorbed by just one country, China. So how would the other countries take advantage of this? So it's like limited raw material, increasing prices. So this is what has been seen in the trend in the 2021. The prices of lithium has been going up, like it's shot up by 400%. So that is one side of the story. The other is the challenge of recycling itself, because if the system of buying new capacities or putting up new capacities comes to such a way that is easy to mine, that means if the mining cost of the raw material is far lower than the recovery cost or recycling cost from waste material, then I'm telling you, this entire waste will end up in dumping yards and large dumping grounds, which is not available for the world today. It will be like a major disaster going into the soil, and we will see infiltration of cobalt, nickel, cadmium, and all of this into the system. So this is very important, So my point is very simple here, that unless and until we look at this entire problem of waste management in the renewable energy sector, which is a sunrise sector for the world economy, not only for India. Because as I told you that we built the report of 100 gigawatt solar in 2022, I was confident. I'm still confident that we can do 400 gigawatt by 2027. Because of the pandemic, we have shifted. Our report was 400 gigawatt for 2025, but because of the pandemic, we shifted it to 2027. And that's not a, I tell you, bad shift, because we can do it. But have we achieved this capacity index is also a point, because today we've said we will do 100 gigawatt by 2022, but currently we have just crossed 50. And in the balance of time, even if we stretch up to December of 2022, we may just add another 10 gigawatts. So 60 is what we will achieve. But while we achieve this, there are old plants which have still not come on the ground. The disposal stage has not come, because most of the capacities have been built over the last 5 to 7 years. We would say it all began in 2013-14, when real capacities came. The Gujarat solar park was established. The first large solar park of 200 megawatt was established in the Ran of Kutch in the year 2012. I was there on the day of April, in the Ran of Kutch in the border village, literally over there in Gujarat. I was called by Dr. DJ Pandian. He was the then principal secretary for renewable energy and the energy sector as such. And then later on went on to become the chief investment officer and the vice president of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. So after he went there, he's just returned back. I spoke to him a couple of days back. He's back in India. And now I think it will be Urjit Patel who will be taking over his position over there. So this is the background, the development of solar came in this way. So is there any renewable energy? People will ask me the question, Professor, is there any renewable energy component that does not have a waste disposal scheme? So the good news is my favorite is hydropower development. When you do hydropower development, there is not any waste disposal other than the life of the dam and the power plant itself. If it run of the river, then there's less of concrete. But when it's the complete dam, it's only that. And then these hydro projects, since the days of M. Vishwesharaya and my guru, Dr. Yogendra Prasad, who we lost last year, who built hydro like anything, or went off rate, and for the greatest renewable energy, because energy conversion is large. There is barely any waste coming from hydropower. So if there is a real clean development, it takes a long time to build hydro projects, almost 9 to 10 years. Then I would recommend hydro as a great idea. Of course, we have to work on the challenges of submergence, challenge of rehabilitation, and scientific R&R. These are issues over there. So yes, the good news for this forum is there is capacity in renewable energy where you may not have such a big waste recycling and disposal problem. Yes, we need to handle silt. We need to handle those issues over there in the hydropower sector. Coming back to my very favorite topic, because I explained to you the challenges that are there for the solar industry. Solar industry uses a lot of material in the manufacture of solar photovoltaic systems, and technology is advancing. We're now talking of percosites, which will actually end up giving a certain efficiency to the layer. Efficiencies may increase, but then the huge amount of raw material of different versions and rare earth materials going into solar will also need treatment. So we have to start preparing, and it's already late for the solar industry, but for battery industry, EV, it is not late. We must prepare now, because otherwise this lithium thing will not only be one is that we will face a problem of lithium supplies. That will be one end. But before that, everybody will gobble up. And I think India will also get into this lithium in some way. And then we will have problems of disposal of lithium batteries. So we have to definitely be in a war footing over here. Now, there are two schools of thought in the world. One school of thought wants these electric vehicles to prosper. And I belong to the other school of thought, which believes that everything cannot be done. You cannot put all your eggs in one basket. So basically, I'm not against electric vehicles. I want these electric vehicles to focus on the two-wheeler segment in India in a very practical way, because lithium is not infinite. Lithium is very rare, and out of the 202 countries, 92% of the deposit, as I told you, lies in 4 countries. So if this is the truth, let us not copy the West and their push to us. We must go for EV only for the two-wheeler and this segment. Cars, I'm telling you, we should think twice before we go to electric vehicles in the car industry, unless there is a new battery technology. But what is the good news for us? The good news is the world is still having a lot of gas supplies, natural gas supplies. And the advantages in 2009, I have seen the power of the system, because I was in Alberta, basically. And I think it was Alberta or the University of Waterloo, one of them. So I went to a suburb, and I think it was Alberta. I went to the suburb and took a truck journey on the highway. It was that Ballard, the maker of the fuel cells, they had supplied the system for the 450 HP truck. It traveled at something like 200 kilometers per hour very smoothly on the Canadian highway. And I tell you, 450 HP truck using reformer technology and operating with the fuel cell, hydrogen fuel cell. Because what the reformer does, it separates the hydrogen, carbon is collected and then and sent to commercial use later on. But basically all the trucks, many trucks, large capacity, were running in this fashion using reformer technology from Ballard, and it was already in use in 2009. So today we are in 2021. So the Canadians had done it that time. I don't think India can also look at this. So instead of looking at all this hydrogen business of electrolysis, green, blue, yellow, see, hydrogen is hydrogen. There can't be blue and green hydrogen. So basically, hydrogen is another fuel, which is a clean fuel. Gas itself is a clean fuel, because minus the, there is a, compared to coal and other resources, is a 77% reduction in carbon emission when you use natural gas. Therefore, my pet topic, that India is a huge agriculture-based economy in the world. Luckily, we are not copied the West. We still do not have, crops grown out of, biomodification, or what you call a genetically modified crops. So India has for 30 years resisted this. More than 3 decades, we have resisted it. And we will continue to resist the bio, system where they are trying to alter the entire, I would say, structure of land, and including us, because we will eat, our DNA structure will be damaged. So if we work towards this objective that we do not allow this kind of a thing, then we will see a lot of natural gas produced, which is called the compressed biogas. Its name is compressed biogas or simply bio-CNG. And when it is coming out, when we produce this from agricultural waste, and agricultural waste can be parali, it can be rice husk, and the best of them is the sugarcane press mud, and all of this combined with animal husbandry waste. In the animal husbandry waste, the top one in India is the cattle dung. Basically, that means the cow and the buffalo and the oxen and all this. This is the cattle dung. If you hybridize cattle dung with press mud, that gives you the best result. What it does, it produces huge quantum of renewable energy in the form of fuel first, because when you take out, it is raw biogas that comes in. The next is that biogas is 60% biogas, 30% carbon dioxide, about some quantum of H2S dissolved together with 10% that is left, the balance 10%, which is basically, you see, is a moisture. So the first thing is the corrosive hydrogen sulfide, H2S, has to be removed. So once H2S is removed, what happens is you are left with carbon dioxide, mixed 30% carbon dioxide, 60% of the gas. So to improve the purity of the gas, there are two processes by virtue of which we can do. There are scrubbing processes, and the second one is membrane technology. There is also cryogenics, but that needs a lot of energy. But I'm looking at membrane. We are working with Evonik AG Germany, and they are our one of the key members in the system. So Evonik has developed a membrane. So what it does, you don't have to do carbon dioxide scrubbing and water use and all that go down. So the raw biogas simply goes through a membrane. The faster gas, which is carbon dioxide, travels through the membrane, and the slower gas, CH4, is retained. And then it is fired, and then it is 99% pure. So two things you can do with this raw, which is purified, 99% purified biomethane, which we call the bio-CNG, or simply the compressed biogas. So presently, there is a beautiful scheme of SATAT, which is one way of doing it. SATAT is sustainable alternative towards affordable transportation of the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. And also the Ministry of MNRE was also involved in this, but I think it's purely driven, and I'm seeing it's right now driven by the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, because they are the buyers of the output. And we have already visited two of the very good plants, of the 12 plants that are operating. One is an old plant which came before this policy, which is at Varnanagar, which is put up by Mr. Vinayak Kore, my old friend from Varna Sugars. So they have put up a 4.5 tons plant, but this does not use the membrane. This is 10 years old plant, and it is producing 4.5 tons per day of bio-CNG from simply pressed mud. And what is left is high-grade organic fertilizer. So everything is recycled. It's completely, circular economy, because what he's doing is unique, because over there, Dr. A.V. Rao, who's my good friend, has designed this from Spectrum Green, and they have put up this plant. So what happens, 4.5 tons of gas is produced. What is left is taken as high-grade biofertilizer. And I saw that the carbon content in the Kolhapur operations are 28%. So it is the best fertilizer. It can bring back the life of dead soil, or barren land also can be brought into agriculture. No phosphatic fertilizer can do this. So the real circular economy is already in front of us, which is this. So when you do the sustainable alternative towards affordable transportation, that means you use the bio-CNG for vehicles. So you come to the IC engines life extension program. So every IC engine based delivery, whether it's a truck, whether it's a car, whether it's a scooter, anything, and even a tractor can be utilized. It can utilize the bio-CNG. So this is the big revolution. So once you use bio-CNG, what is left is also going as high-grade organic fertilizer, goes back into the soil for production of food. So I see this as the first clear execution on the ground of a circular economy in this country. And we prepared the white paper for the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. REPA was the body that prepared. Nobody has done this in the world. We are the first organization in the world to prepare a full report for a government and then give it to them pro bono, which is with the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. And our support for this report was the Evonik AG Germany. And this report is a path-breaking report for delivery of compressed biogas. I know then I interviewed the, ED Panipat, Dr. Mr. Segdar. And when I interviewed him, he was gung-ho. He just seconded my point. He said, every village in India can have a biogas plant or a bio-CNG plant. The only thing is IOCL and these big, together with them, the nodal agencies, to go to the place, because this sugarcane, press mud, and raw material of agro waste will be only available close to the farm sector. These plants will come there. Average size, let's say a 7 tons per day plant is about, you can say 40 crores, and that's about 15% IRR rate of return. So we can give any sort of consultancy for this and enable anybody to come for and develop this plant. All the know-how is available, and we don't need to go to foreign countries. REPA can enable this objective of anybody who wants to put up such a plant, and the plants will operate for 25 years, and beautiful disposal of these plants is much easier, because there is nothing left after we produce bio-CNG, because everything goes into the circular economy. It fits into the ESG model, environment, sociology and governance model. And also it fits into our sustainable development goals of the UN IPCC. This idea fits into everything. So he told me every village, how many villages India has? India has 5,97,000 villages. That is 597,000 villages in the country. If each puts up, let's say 5 to 7 tons per day plant is feasible using the agro waste to produce biogas, this will reduce our dependence on import of gas by more than 50%. Almost 60 to, it could be, if we are more efficient, we could go to 75% of our need for natural gas will come from bio-CNG or bio-natural gas or biogas produced. The second part of it is if we have extra capacity, because if the absorption of this gas does not get quicker into the grid, we can deliver electricity almost 24/7, firing a gas engine using the biogas, raw biogas itself, without treating it, the 60% gas, so that we can collect the carbon and use it commercially. Carbon dioxide is used commercially. So basically, it is waiting to happen. I come from the IC engine side, so I do not agree with people who are making a big noise for electric vehicle alone, because large IC engines beyond 40 HP power, there is no design for electric vehicle today. As I told you, the Canadians are using 450 HP truck. The biggest truck in India is 250 HP, maybe pushed to 300 HP. But 450 HP trucks are running on the Canadian and the Australian highways, and even the American highways. So we must go to that level. And these are using natural gas and reformer technology, conversion to hydrogen, because reformer automatically brings out the hydrogen. These are hydrogen-driven engines. So it's not new, it was already happening. So all this hype that hydrogen was used today is untrue. And hydrogen is a clean fuel, because residue, we will not get much residue in this, because it will burn. It's the most abundant gas compared to oxygen or in the water itself. But people are talking about electrolysis of water. I would warn them that water is scarce. We are not able to use, even for producing silicon, we need millions of tons of water. It's not an easy process to mine either lithium or silicon, because we need huge quantum of water to do all that mining. So we must, this is not being discussed. This is not being discussed anywhere in the world, because all the lobbies want to keep shut on the consumption. Even to manufacture solar, we need energy. So we can't just look at the tariff and say this is all cheap. No, we're robbing Peter to pay Paul in the whole process. So guarding the environment is very important. I'm not against solar. I'm the man who promoted solar in this country, but I'm the one who's going to warn you also that we have to ensure that unless better raw material, better, I would say, more abundance system. Of course, silicon is in abundance, so we can continue to make silicon-based technologies. There are technologies which can improve the efficiency. I also am in touch with such technologies. But disposal of this after 25 years, we must start the planning now, because then there will be a huge recycling industry, and billions of dollars of recycling industry can come in the next 5 or 6 years. We will see the first cycle of recycling of solar panels and PV for better efficient panels coming in. And the cost of solar, see, the best part is here, why we should go to this. The cost of building solar has come down, but over a period of time, this will also stabilize. So what will happen? It's only a fight between recovery of raw material from recycle process, rather than going to fresh mining of silicon and other raw material utilized for solar. So this is the only choice we have. Okay, silicon PV system is very difficult. There's a lot of glass. There's a lot of plastic in it, EV sheet. So removal of this is quite a difficult process. So unless and until we start developing now, we will not develop efficient process of recoveries. So that efficiency, both in terms of energy content and dollar for recovery of raw material, per unit of raw material, the amount of dollars or rupees that go in, that is very important to guard. So if you don't do this, all of this will end up in the Earth's dumping ground. That is the risk we are facing today. And this is the risk we are having for the solar industry. Yes, more than solar, we should worry about the lithium electric vehicle thing I told you. First is scarcity of the raw material. Second is the very huge, environmental damage that lithium-based system can create, because it is using cobalt, it's using nickel. So these two elements are rare earth again, and they are also a problem for the planet. If they go into the soil, they will finish the productivity of the soil. So we have a challenge over there waiting for us, for sure. So these two parts I have already explained to you, that waste heat recycling is very important. Another important point I wish to say is the thermal power plant. The whole world has started talking that India should not develop coal-based power plant. I'm the president of the Renewable Energy Promotion Association, and I want to vouch and challenge all of them that in spite of my love for renewable energy, India will need enough capacities of thermal coal-based power, for the simple reason that solar is only available 6 hours. If you go wind, it is intermittent throughout the day with 25% plant load factor. Solar's plant load factor is field efficiency is not more than 90% today. Even if you improve, it will be 21, 23%, not more than that. Compared to this, a coal-based power plant is a base load power plant, because even the solar is base load, it's only replacing coal. These cannot be flexible, because the only two flexible power plants which can plug and play, come and go, and they can be started, stopped, or run at any point of time are hydropower and gas. And they are used for as spinning reserves and peak shaving, and they're most important for us. And it's very interesting that in India, several hydropower plants, because of shortage and to sustain our grid's frequency, we are operating them almost like base load, especially the run-of-the-river projects like the Satluj Nathpa Jhakri project in Himachal Pradesh. So these are examples where even the hydro has played all the three roles, that it has also kicked up for the base load requirement, and it has also picked up whenever the urban peaks and the semi-urban peaks come in. Rurals have not shown too much of peak, they are more stable curves. So basically what I feel that we need to not have one fitment for everybody. So while we develop enough quantity of renewable energy, we must not neglect the fact that with just 1.38 billion population, we have only 203 gigawatt of thermal coal-based power. Whereas America, which has got a population of 330 million or 0.3 billion, one fourth of us, literally close to, they have got 400 gigawatt of thermal coal-based power plants. And then look at China. China is now inching towards the 900 to 1000 gigawatt of thermal coal-based power plant with a population equivalent to India, 1.4 billion. So why the world is discussing India as a polluter? We have only 203 gigawatt. So unless we hit at least the American point of 400 gigawatt of capacities, that too is supercritical, because the supercritical technology reduces the carbon emission by quite of 25 to 30%. And also the consumption of coal is coming down by 40 to 50%. So this technology, high temperature supercritical, and now we are looking at ultra supercritical, can sustain development of energy efficient coal power plants. And the future, that's why I challenge the green and blue and violet and all these names for hydrogen. Hydrogen is hydrogen. So if we take hydrogen from the coal bed methane, we have the fourth largest deposit of coal in the world, or maybe the third largest now. We are said to have about 384 billion tons of coal in this country. And we are only producing 600 million tons of coal locally, which can go to 1 billion any time, if we improve the efficiency in coal mining and also use all other techniques to get. But I would say, instead of going coal, this country must start investing in coal bed methane, because if we can extract the coal bed methane, then we have huge quantum of CBM, which can be directly converted to hydrogen. And this is the revolution, because again, through the soil, we'll make the revolution. So we don't have to import too much, of natural gas as we go along. And then we can think of some strategic moves to procure natural gas globally, because we may still need about 30% of importation, 40% importation. But majority of more than 50% of it can be produced through a good combination of one CBG plant per village, so that we can get a 5 to 7 tons per day plant in each village. The gas is coming, all our vehicles can be driven, the IC engines can be driven using this biogas, or what we call as the compressed biogas, the cleaned up system, using membranes of Evonik or other similar technologies, which can bring 99% pure biomethane to us. And then another good news I want to tell you, that Evonik is a company which is patenting another membrane where you can simply put the membrane for the biomethane, and after the CH4 is separated, we can separate the hydrogen also. So the technology is coming in, advanced technology. You don't have to process too much. It's much easier. The energy consumption is very, very low. There's no need of water. So these are the most important issues that are in front of us. We are in a very, very interesting times, but it depends, whether you, through these times, you take advantage of the world economy, or through this time, you get into a trouble where, you end up actually not embracing the right moves and making the wrong moves. So whether it's a policymaker, it's a government, whether there are people in the business or anybody, I would say that REPA is an organization that will stand for the right development, the right mix. See, like the waste disposal, recycling. When Homi Jahangir Baba, in those days, he opposed the American view of putting up open cycle process for nuclear power plants. So he came with the idea of closed cycle nuclear power plants. So what did he do? He basically ensured, he was talking about that the spent fuel should come back and it should become a primary fuel for a secondary reactor. So what happened with this thinking of Homi Jahangir Baba? We did the beautiful Kalpakam plant, which is still, of course, for ground reasons, it is struggling. It is a fast breeder reactor. In a fast breeder system, the amount of nuclear fuel you put, there is more produced. So basically, it's a self-sustaining reaction. Just 1 kg of, enriched uranium, which will be coming out of, I would say, the primary power plant from a Tarapur or a, VVR-based Kodamkulam, it comes out. The enriched uranium, which is a plutonium bomb grade, we don't have to go to make too many bombs. A dozen bombs are enough for taking on anybody in the world. The rest of it can go into feeding the fast breeder reactors. So what happens if you commercialize these fast breeder reactors? And the reactor is not a pilot, it's a 500 megawatt big commercial reactor being built at Kalpakam. It's on the verge of putting power into the grid in a big way. So if this is coming, the nuclear waste is not going to be produced. It will be self-sustainable, consumed, produced within the fast breeder system. So this is what we were talking about. And the future fuel is thorium. India is the largest thorium deposit country in the world. As far as the international arena is concerned, and the US Geological Survey System talks about, they say India has 30% of the world's thorium deposit, way ahead of Australia and China and everybody. China has about 10%. But I know that we have almost 60% of raw thorium embedded in various ways in our coastal areas and, all around the country. So if we are able to do this, if we are go to the thorium-based reactors, which I think initially we may not have the technology, but the Europeans have already developed. China has put up its first thorium reactor in spite of it not having so much deposits. So India must go the thorium way. Recycling will be much easier of the thorium waste because it is not as radioactive and it is not at all a risk factor to anyone over there. So thorium recycling is also another issue. So I have tried to cover overall picture and what we have to do, as a country, as a nation. We have to build something like 800 gigawatt in short time. In fact, by 2027, we should be looking at 600 gigawatt and 800 to 1000 gigawatt should come by 2030. So in this scenario, almost 60% of that will be renewable energy. So we must focus on recycling renewable energy. And I wish to tell you that the technologies for recycling are quite mature and they're good and the recoveries are quite efficient, provided we adapt it quickly. So with this, brief time that I had in this session, I now want to invite some question answers from the audience. Over to you. Any question answers for me?
Thank you so much, sir. We have a question about how much percentage of Indian lead acid batteries being recycling in organized sector versus unorganized sector.
Yeah, you were saying the percentage that is being recycled in organized as well as unorganized for lead-based systems, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, see, I'll tell you, the unorganized sector is looking very bad because almost most of the lead waste that literally enters a country like India, we are like 60-70% of lead waste enters here and we reprocess it, recover it and do it. But I tell you, the unorganized sector is almost more than 50% of this. So the organized sector is slowly going out of lead, processing the lead waste. And as lithium comes in, so now the new darling is lithium. So people will not even look at what to do with the lead waste. So over a period of time, this is the danger we are having, because the last slab, we may end up seeing this in the soil. And that will be a big trouble for my farmers in this country.
Thank you so much, sir.
Any other questions?
Uh,
Of course, you can share my numbers if anybody wants to get in touch with me on any of these issues. It's a
Sure.
good seminar because you've taken a good initiative. It is very challenging because people don't want to discuss this issue. People
Yes,
are
sir.
afraid or they don't want to discuss. They want to keep quiet. So if you keep quiet, you'll damage your environment. You'll damage your next generation. My son, my daughter, your son, your daughters, the next generation, they are going to, you leave the waste for them. That's most dangerous, my friends. Don't do that. Start spending your next life. The biggest social reform that you can do is you don't have to go out and do. If you have time, please spend your time in thinking of recycling, in thinking of, saving the planet, in working on these lines. If somebody is asking me, how do you see the future use of hydrogen? So this is one of my pet subjects. Let me tell you that for the hydrogen economy, whatever this world is talking about, I don't believe, and neither I will support as a scientifically bent person, because I've seen hydrogen operating in direct fuel combustion. I don't know how many of you know, but please go back and do your research on Hindenburg experiment, which was pre-World War in Germany. Hindenburg was the design as a company making airships. So that airship was using the diesel engine made by Rudolf Diesel. In a way, my mentor, because I worked for MAN Diesel. I was the head of MAN in India. And I put a lot of heavy fuel power plants. They were polluting power plants, but we did a lot of pollution management and control. Even today, we can use heavy fuel and do pollution management better than any other technology. But when I put there that I went into this Hindenburg experiment. That time we used hydrogen in IC engine. And these hydrogen-based IC engines, reciprocating engine, were driving the airships. These airships used to run at 200 kilometers per hour in the top, and any plane would go at 800 kilometers. So hydrogen was used. This is called hydrogen direct combustible, HDC. So therefore, all people who are talking of indirect use of hydrogen, they are on the wrong side of the whole story. Because if we had done that pre-World War II, and why did the Hindenburg experiment, they say it's failed? No, it did not fail. It ran the airship for many years. In fact, Hindenburg failed because people were drinking inside the airship, people were smoking. And one fine day, that caught the inflammable hydrogen and we resulted in the death of many people in that accident. But nobody tried direct combustible with safety. So if that is done, you can work on vehicles, you can do ship propulsion, you can run your airships, everything can be done again. This is one way. The other way is hydrogen fuel cell, because more than the battery industry, it will be hydrogen fuel cell which will come in. And the latest news is that Adanis have done a MOU with Ballard, the new company Anil, which is Adani New Industries Limited. Just yesterday they went, because I was waiting for somebody, because Ballard made a deal with one of the Indian companies and it failed because of some internal problems between these two companies. Mr. Upadhyay's one solar company in Delhi, so I don't want to name them, but that failed because the company Ballard complained that not professional. So that went out, and now the fuel cell will enter India. So it is not the electric vehicle, the electricity or the DC driven vehicle will still be there. There will be still the electric vehicle, but it will be fuel cell driven. So I've given you two answers. For the transportation, it will be fuel cell based hydrogen technology that will be there. And there could be also intermediate direct combustion. It could even bring back the airship into reckoning again. Instead of making planes, there will be companies making airships and reinventing the whole thing and sending people, between cities, at least intra-city. Suppose Maharashtra has a big economy, Karnataka has a big economy. We can have intra-city, we can have a Bangalore to Hubli airship flying, just taking people. So that could be the future. So that is the hydrogen direct combustible. It is waiting to happen. And REPA will support all this because we have the vision that hydrogen direct combustible will happen. We don't have to use hydrogen. And then I am against electrolysis because that's a very energy-driven technology.
Thank you so much, sir. Actually,
Okay.
we are running out of time. We'll
I know.
share the details, contact details of Professor Iyer. So anyone, if you have any questions, directly contact him. And thank you for enlightening us about the transition green energy, sir. And also, we are truly inspired by vision and mission. And we look forward to associate with you in the future as well. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you. See you again.
Thank you, sir. So our next speaker has an enhance of experience in the solar cell technology and truly a master of his work and impeccable knowledge. I'd like to invite Dr. D.S. Prasad, scientist from Center for Materials for Electronics Technology. Today he'll be addressing about the recycling of CSI solar modules, opportunities and challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. D.S. Prasad.
Am I audible, madam? You okay?
Yes, sir, you're audible. You can just turn on your camera.
Okay. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers for having invited me to this nationally important virtual conference on global recycling, global renewable energy recycling. Respected our chief guest, today's chief guest, Sri Bhagavat Kuba, Minister of State, Honorable Minister of State, New and Renewable Energy, Chemicals and Fertilizers, Government of India, distinguished speakers and dignitaries, a very happy and good morning. Solar energy is a renewable resource that generates electricity from solar panels, which is a very environmentally friendly process. While the function of solar panels is to produce clean energy, their improper handling of end-of-life solar modules will rise to the enormous problems, which is environmentally, they may not be environmentally sound process, and it will affect the human health also if you do not handle the end-of-life solar panels. And our institute is a CMET, Center for Materials for Electronics Technology. It is a R&D institute under Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, MIT, Government of India. The MIT point of view, and as per the directions of the NITI Aayog, one should focus on circular economy and ensure that the transition of India from linear to circular economy. This is MIT's point of view. And in the next coming 10 to 15 years, all the PV installed modules, they may reach to their end of life, and which will present a massive waste management challenge. With no proper recycling structure in place, these waste modules will produce a environmental hazards. They will produce the hazardous effects will be there with that modules, which they are meant to save. So our ministry has given us a task to CMET to develop an indigenously commercially viable technology, which is totally has to be indigenous, and that suits to the Indian conditions, to recycle the end-of-life crystalline silicon solar modules, that is silicon-based solar modules, which has to be environment friendly energy, and you have to, at the end of the recycling, you have to treat the waste chemicals, and you have to ensure that the hazardous gases which evolve from the recycling of panels should be neutralized before letting it into the atmosphere. So that is the task given to CMET. Now I am handling that project in CMET. I am going to show some slides what CMET is doing in this field of recycling crystalline-based silicon solar modules. I'm going to talk about the recycling of crystalline solar modules, opportunities and challenges, and in particular about the work that is being carried out in CMET. This photovoltaic recycling, the governments of various countries now, all are encouraging PV installations to promote green energy. And India presently has 31 gigawatt installed capacity, and has a target of course, 100 gigawatt solar capacity by 2022. This will lead to the generation of large amount of solar waste that need to be recycled. Photovoltaic recycling is important to prevent landfill crowding and leaching of toxic chemicals into the environment. So intense research is being carried out around the world for the.
Sorry to
Share.
interrupt. Can you make it in the full slide share mode so it will be even more visible?
Okay, okay. It is in the slide share mode only. 1 second. One second, madam. I'll make it slide.
Sure, sir.
In fact, it is in the slide share mode only. This one full.
Sir, you can stop sharing your screen and you can share your entire window screen, sir. So then it will be clickable.
This one. Is it okay, madam? Now.
Yes, sir. It's fine.
Okay. Oh. So it's not moving shares.
You can start it, sir. The slide is fine.
New share. Yeah. Hmm.
So you can start it, sir.
Yeah, it's
Sure.
hmm. Hmm. Yeah, now the PV waste generation, we can see that as per the reports from IREA, large quantities of solar waste by 2050 it will be reached to 78 million tons. So as per report of Bridge to India also, it is estimated that the solar waste will reach to 1 to 1.2 million. So as I initially mentioned in my initial remarks, that there has to be a proper recycling technology has to be. Now time has come to develop this technology, because in the another coming 10 years there will be a huge quantity of this end of life solar panels will be accumulated. So now we have studied actually the research are being carried out across the globe, and Asia is leading in the field of PV recycling with many patents and research publications, followed by Europe. In Asia, it is basically China, Japan, and other countries are leading in this area, and that will be followed by the Europe. And latest trends is now mono technology is fast gaining the market because of its high efficiency, and monocast also. Monocast is in between monocrystalline and polycrystalline, and slowly multicrystalline silicon will become insignificant because mono dominance is consolidating. But as far as our India is concerned, because we have installed a large number of new capacities with multicrystalline technology has been installed so far. So we deal with the multicrystalline based solar cells only. So other cell technologies also now they are coming up with the PERX technologies, market mainstream in the coming years, bifacial cells, because there will be huge demand for bifacial cells also, and half cell now so far we are handling with the full cells only. Now half cell share will also going to increase. This is present market trend. And what the solar cell compositions is this, of course everybody knows about it. The crystalline silicon cells contain basically aluminum, glass, silicon, which is more important semiconductor materials, and polymers, copper, silver, lead, and tin. And this is crystalline silicon based cells. And whereas thin film based solar cells, they contain glass and with cadmium telluride and cadmium sulfide and all. And CMET is presently handling with the silicon based solar cells only because the market is a huge market share is there with the crystalline silicon. So if we establish a technology for crystalline silicon based solar cells, that would be more helpful in handling these waste modules. So it is lead and cadmium are very hazardous and toxic in nature, though we have to ensure that these are to be neutralized before letting into the landfill or atmospheric emissions. And if we don't recycle the solar cells, what is going to happen? If you leave it lead as such, then highly toxic substance that can pollute the drinking water. And if it is leaching of cadmium, cadmium is a known carcinogen and it is considered extremely toxic. Health hazards include kidney, liver, and lung cancer for inhalation from inhalation of the cadmium vapors. And then significant loss of resources such as glass and aluminum. And by not recovering the silicon, copper, etc., at the end of their life, so there will be a permanent depletion of these very important materials. Silicon, we all know it's a very useful semiconductor materials. Similarly, copper metal also. And what to recover from a silicon solar module? This one should have some idea about the materials, what we are going to recover from the end of life of module. The valuable resources, silver and solar grade silicon. Solar grade silicon means it is about 6 nines to 9 nines purity of silicon. And the copper, that is interconnected cables, that is, and tin, glass, and aluminum. As I just mentioned, other elements are lead and plastics. So what is percentage of containing is glass is almost 70% of the glass solar panels contains, and aluminum is 10%, with plastics 10%, silicon is the 3%, and other copper, silver is very, very less, it is 0.006%, with lead is 0.05%. Even though lead percentage is very less, but we should not leave it because of this hazardous nature. And amongst all the PV cell, silicon vapors costs more than 65%, even though it is contains 3% of the entire module. But this cost is very heavy when compared when we take consideration to the cost of the solar module. So the research area, this is the recycling of end of life solar modules, and what is the PV waste? It's a thrust for future generations. And what are issues to be addressed in this specialized area is who are the major stakeholders of the PV recycling process. Similarly, there is no proper legislation in India so far as CV waste modules is concerned, and e-waste legislation practice worldwide has to be studied, and we have to learn from their implementation execution in their Western countries, and reaction of manufacturers and users on government policy decisions, and what are the economic and technical and social bottlenecks for the development of recycling technology, and how can entrepreneurs become profitable by adopting this recycling business. These are the issues to be addressed. Once we complete the technology, these are the issues to be, we have to provide answers to these issues. And in India, present status is of course in Asia, the countries in Asia, they are leading in the PV recycling technology, Korea, Japan, and China. As the PV industry has been expanding recently in India, focus has been shifted on the PV recycling. And India, with proceed on services, they are processing solar waste, which is given to the, that is mechanical, they are shredding the solar modules into the pieces. And of course, those pieces also contain all polymers, glass, and everything. And one has to adopt a chemical method or thermal method to separate these pieces. And at the end of the output of mechanical shredding has to be given to the e-waste recyclers. Though many individuals are working on the recycling technology currently in various universities and out of academic interest, but so far there is no commercially viable technology has been available in India, not only in India, and globally also commercial technology has not been developed. So this task has been taken up by CMET Hyderabad, to develop a cost-effective technology that suits to the Indian conditions. And what are the methods to recycle the end-of-life modules? There are various methods in the literature. If we see, there are various kinds of methods are available. The thermal treatment, right from thermal treatment, chemical treatment, that is organic solvent methods, and mechanical operation. Sometimes combination of techniques, thermal treatment and mechanical plus organic. There are various combination of techniques also you can adopt to see. As far as output is concerned, you can recycle the modules by adopting any one of these methods or combination of methods, but we have to identify the commercially viable method out of these methods, known techniques. And globally, in fact, we have studied what is the work being carried out globally also. We have studied the 17 group work in Asia, and 3 groups they are working in Australia, and 12 groups they are working in Europe. We have studied specifically with them, and what we have observed is about 46% they have adopted the thermal techniques, and only some 12% they have adopted the combination of techniques, and the chemical methods around 15% of the known recyclers they are adopted solvent technique, and the mechanical treatment is 27%. So this is rough. This gives a rough idea which method will give you the better output, both technically and commercial values also. As I mentioned just now, the president, they have Chennai-based project. They are working on up to separation, up to the mechanical studying stage, and the E-Parisara Bengaluru, they are also in the e-way recycling business. And company is also working on the recycling for solar waste also. This is E-Parisara Bengaluru. And this is the process methodology we have adopted in CMET. Initially, we take the solar panels and we separate it. We manually will separate the frame and junction box. Then we have adopted the various delamination methods we have adopted, and we could able to achieve the backsheet we could able to retrieve. These are all the components of the solar module: backsheet, glass, ethylene vinyl acetate EVA. This is the polymer which is a major step in separation of the components, and copper wires, of course, and solar cell chips. These are all the, after delamination we will get all these products from the solar panels, solar chips, whatever solar 3% of the overall module there are the solar chips, and those solar chips it will go to the leaching experiments and then etching experiments. Finally, we will get a after electrolysis we will get the metals like silver and copper and lead and all, and after etching we will get a high pure silicon. High pure silicon means this is 4 nines to 5 nines purity silicon we get. Ultimately we'll get, this is the our ultimate aim is to get the silicon powder of the purest possible, that is 4 nines purity, where the impurities namely boron and phosphorus has to be reduced to the extent possible, so that the silicon which was recovered can be directly used for you can supply to the manufacturers, those who are making the solar cells. This silicon powder can be supplied to them, provided if it is a 5 nines to 6 nines purity with impurities, specific impurities, boron and phosphorus, and of course other impurities also there, calcium, copper, and all impurities also. They have to be within the acceptable limits. So we have to ensure that highest purity silicon has to be our output material. And now in CMET we have got the end of life solar panels from various sources. We got it initially. We got E-Parisara Bengaluru, about a ton of material we got it, and in Hyderabad also there are so many solar cell assemblers are there. They also supplied us the panels, and in this solar panels there are various types of panels we are getting. One is polycrystalline panels we are getting, and sometimes we got the monocrystalline panels also, sometimes cast mono panels also we are getting. So we have to develop a technology that suits to the all types of panels. That means a unique technology has to be developed. Suppose if we develop a technology which suits your only polycrystalline material, then tomorrow if there is a materials, we will get a monocrystalline or cast mono materials, that will not be, this technology may not be useful. So we have to work out in such a way that there must be a unique technology that gives solution to all types of panels, end of life panels. So we have done with two types of panels, monocast and mono crystalline silica panels, and of course polycrystal also we did it. And these are the record material percentage. If we initially we started with 300 by 300 solar module, and glass we could able to get 82% of the glass we could able to get it, and solar chips it is around 5%, and backsheet is 3%, encapsulating material that is EVA 10%. And silicon is 89% we could able to receive. This is two types of models we could able to get it. But the crucial step in this is the separation of EVA. And ethylene vinyl acetate, that is EVA, which will be used to adhere the backsheet and solar cells and glass and solar cells. So once you develop the technology, you have to see to it that we are the end users of our recovered glass. So you have to interact with the interested parties, that who is going to use your waste glass which has been recovered from the solar waste modules. And similarly, backsheet also we are going to recover the material. The users are, we have to find out the end user, and the EVA also we could able to recover back. There are some certain methods. If we adopt a method technology, there you cannot recover the EVA. It will just, in the thermal treatment, if you take, you cannot recover the EVA. It will just evaporate the material. You cannot recover. So some other method you have to adopt if you want. Really, if there is a business for the EVA, recovered EVA, then we should not go for the thermal process, because in thermal process you cannot get the EVA. There must be another process you should be able to. And there are chemical methods also. In the chemical methods, there is a usage of the solvents will be there, which are hazardous also in nature. So we have to discourage the chemical methods also, but only with up to a certain stage you can go for it. So all these combinations of techniques we have to adopt to get a viable technology for this. So this is the recovered silicon we have. This is almost 4 nines to 5 nines purity. Still boron is slightly, that is dopant material. We have got a slightly high concentration of boron in this. And phosphorus almost we got to the non-detectable limits. Other impurities are within the acceptable conditions. Once we talk about the 6 nines purity or 7 nines purity, there must be it should not be handled in an open atmosphere. It should be handled in a clean room. Clean room means class 10,000 clean room. We have to handle it once, because if we handle it in an open atmosphere, the atmospheric that certain impurities leach into the product, and it may not be of that purity, 6N and 7N purity. Up to 4N pure, we can handle it in an open atmosphere. But if we want to have a highest purity, we should have a separate setup. We should have a clean room benches, which are laminate floor benches has to be there to handle this material. And for packaging the 7N pure material silicon also, we have to develop the technique for to store the highest purity materials. Up to 4N pure, it is okay. So this is the glass we could able to retrieve as such. We have from the solar panel of this size, we have, because we have received this panel in an intact condition. That means glass has not broken. We could able to retrieve the glass as such. And this is the mechanical shredder. Initially, we cut it to the pieces. We reduce the pallet size into the smaller size. But what the output material which we are getting solar chips, they are all intact with the polymers and the glass. So as such, if we leave it, there is no meaning of doing this experiment, because once you the chips are associated with your EVA and glass and all, there is no end user will not be there. So you have to have adopt another method on this to separate these chips into the polymers. You have to separate, glass you have to separate, only silicon you have to. So after mechanical treatment, you should have to have a separate method to handle it. And this is the total output. We have adopted the both chemical methods we have adopted and thermal methods we have adopted. And this is, of course, there are so many solar chips, solar glass, copper, lead, tin, and all materials are there. I have just shown the solar pieces and the solar glass I have shown. Yes, no. And these are all consolidated picture. What are all we have recorded from the waste panels? We have recorded ethyl EVA, we have recorded silicon, we have recorded copper, tin in the form of tin oxide, silver we have recovered, and backsheet, and of course recorded glass. Now we are in touch with methods Borosil Renewables to use our recovered glass in their plant. If that suits to their operations, then we will have an interaction with the Borosil Renewables. So what are the challenges of in this recycling of solar panels? Separation of, as I mentioned initially, the separation of polymers from the end of solar panels. This is the very crucial step. It has to be optimized, and developing a unique method suitable for all types of panels, and treatment of hazardous gases released during the process. Because if we adopt a thermal treatment, there is a carbon monoxide which is in the form of 3000 ppm or so. This is very hazardous gases will be released, carbon monoxide, and fluorine also will be there. So you have to ensure that all these exhaust gases should be neutralized before letting it into the atmosphere. And there must be some chemicals also we are using, and these we have to have a process to handle all these waste chemicals process from the to handle them waste chemicals process. With this, actually we have so much of work we have done. If you have, whenever you visit Hyderabad, you please visit to CMET Hyderabad laboratory. We can show you the complete lab. We can explain, show you, and brief you about the process that we have adopted. And with this, I thank you very much. I conclude my presentation here.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable time. It was great listening from you regarding the solar panel recycling. And we also look forward to associate with you in our upcoming events. And due to the time constraint, like all the questions will be answered at the end of the session. Like, I hope everyone might understand. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you for the. So next, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome our next speaker, who will be discussing about the potential need for solar PV recycling policies by analyzing the existing recycling protocols. Mr. Rajnath Ram, advisor, Power and Energy from Niti Aayog. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Rajnath Ram. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon to all the eminent speakers and the participants. It gives me an immense pleasure to address such an esteemed audience on the topic of the solar PV recycling policies, and which is obviously the need of the hour as India has embarked upon achieving the net zero target by 2070 and also the clean energy transition. The rising solar industry throughout the world is indeed welcoming, but it will give a huge impetus to our fighting against the global warming. The international technology roadmap for the photovoltaic projects that the global installed solar PV capacity may reach up to 4,500 gigawatt by 2050. But I believe that this number will be even outstripped and may even go beyond. In India also, the growth has been phenomenal, and it is expected to continue at the 8% CAGR from the year 2021. We all know that a big announcement made during COP26, and including the Panchamrits and the various goals. And India is a front runner in all aspects of to achieve the clean energy transition pathway. At the same time, let me also bring to the notice that we have also come out with the PLI scheme for high efficiency solar PV and the module manufacturing, and and very encouraging results have been obtained, and the bid have been oversubscribed. almost 44 gigawatt kind of the manufacturing solar PV and module manufacturing capacity would be installed within the country. However, with the this gigantic rise of the solar industry in the future, we may face a danger of rising solar photovoltaic panel waste also, and as the solar PV market expand, the volume of decommissioning of the PV modules will also expand, and significant amount of waste generation is anticipated by the early 2030, or as the large scale deployment reach their end of life during that period. Solar PV panels as defined has an expected lifespan of about 25 to 30 years. But we are expecting that by 2030, around 0.4 million tons of solar PV waste is anticipated within India itself, and about 2.9 million tons by 2040, and maybe by 12 million tons by 2050. So solar PV waste, if not properly disposed, can have severe consequences on the health of our environment and ourselves. So the hazardous chemicals from the solar panels, like the metal lead, can have an adverse effect on the health, starting from the nervous, immune, reproductive, cardiovascular, and all different kind of health complications. Another least metal is a cadmium, which is a carcinogen with the high toxicity as well as high accumulation potential in humans, but this can be changed. Currently, we have a traditional linear economy value chain for the solar panel, comprising sourcing materials, production of panels, operation, and the disposal. But this linear economy needs to be transitioned to a circular economy where solar panels are recycled and almost none goes to the landfill. So we need to ensure that. It is highly possible to have a recycle industry for the solar panels because a large part of the typical silicon-based solar panel is recycled. And the main contributor to the total weight of the typical crystalline silicon PV models is glass, followed by polymer, aluminum, silicon, copper, and some small amount of silver, tin, lead, and other metals and components. As per International Renewable Energy Agency, it has been estimated that value of recovered raw materials from the solar panel in the world could increase cumulatively up to $450 million by 2030. And this is equivalent to the amount of raw materials currently needed to produce approximately 60 million new solar panels. So globally, countries have recognized this value for solar PV waste, and the European Union was first to develop a standard for recycling of the photovoltaic module waste as part of the waste electrical and electronic directives. In India, mainly silicon and cadmium tellurium panels are being deployed with the approximate share installed capacity of 38 gigawatt and 2 gigawatt respectively. Also, considering that the most deployments in India have happened after 2050, so this technology will reach end of life maybe by 2040 or so. Thus, the effort for high volume recycling during the next 10 years should prioritize these two technologies. Currently, as the disposal of the PV modules waste generated in India has a financial impact on the developer, it is a common practice to store the damaged PV modules within the plant premises itself, waiting for the suitable economical solution to carry out the disposal. So this is very critical. In the meantime, silicon and aluminum workers of the unorganized sector buy them from their use, and this leads to unsanitary disposal practices. It is not that Indian industries have not seen the potential of solar PV waste, but but I think some pilot project has been also started, some companies, and with the capacity of 2 tons per day. And the end products are expected the aluminum frames, glass, cullets, junction box, cables, and the mixture of the polymers and the solar cells. As far as policy part is concerned, the e-waste management rules 2016 notified by the Minister of Environment and Forest make any do not make any explicit mention about the solar PV panels. So e-waste management rules also of 2016 define e-waste as electrical and electronic equipment whole or in part discarded as the waste by the consumer or the bulk consumer, as well as rejects from the manufacturing, refurbishment, and repair process. But this, from the definition of e-waste under the rules, PV panels are implicitly considered to be covered under the provisions. But the primary gain of recycling is the recovery of raw materials, which will enable the development of indigenous modules, contributing to the goal of Atmanirbhar Bharat. And according to the preliminary research, approximately 75 jobs is expected during the recycle of 1,000 tons of PV waste. So that's a kind of estimate has been done by some agency. But we definitely need solar PV recycling industry to be well established in India before the solar panels reach their end of life. We need to follow the best practices, but at the same time, establishing this industry, we have to also consider de-risking this industry and to encourage the private investment in the recycling sector. It remains imperative to de-risk private investment in the sector because we have to also consider various policy instruments for de-risking, maybe some kind of loan guarantee scheme, public equity co-investment, blended finance, and like the various kind of policy instrument can be thought of for developing this industry. Public equity co-investment is also can be a major policy instrument. The public-private blended finance has also a lot of potential, which can help this industry to grow. So with regard to the various actions plans that are under consideration by the government, is basically to assess how suitable amendments to the existing or the new rules and the guidelines could bring the solar PV technology under the regulatory oversight. Possibilities of expanding these regulations beyond the existing silicon and the thin films panels may also be explored to make these regulations future ready. Possibilities of mandating technical requirements for recyclability for PV modules to be manufactured or installed in India may be also examined, and such requirements could form part of the standard specification and bidding guidelines. Formulation of guidelines that's under process, and extended producer responsibility framework for producer of solar panels will be also examined. So all the detailed exercise regarding to the survey of the project and different types, the amount of installed modules, and how to deal with the already generated waste. So all these are under active consideration by the government. Guidelines for accounting, reporting, management of waste, and then policy and the regulation to encourage efficiency in the model design and manufacturing process, and how to minimize the waste. All these are the part of the things, and then also the policy to encourage investment in R&D of the recycling techniques and their pilot demonstration. Public-private partnership can be explored in this particular area. Energy requirement and the cost of recycling of the different types of PV models, that needs to be also determined, and based on the Indian condition and different recycling processes, how the different recycling processes can be considered where efficiency can be established. And this would be necessary just to justify the need and the extent of recycling, and also enable assessment of economic returns from the recyclable process. Impact of the PV-based recycling on the India's total RE ambition, domestic manufacturing opportunities, and the PV technology evolution should be closely studied. And this should be the implication on the raw material cost, and also the value chain to cover the module cost, solar tariff, and all those kind of things. We need to also work towards the institutional framework, identify the key nodal agency for monitoring, evaluation, and enforcement of the PV waste management, both at the central and the state level. I mean, that is critical if we have to really come out with the suitable policies and suitable framework for recycling industry. Suitable incentive mechanism, as I have already mentioned, if the viability gap funding is required, that can be also examined. So, I just want to conclude with the fact that the expected volume of the solar panel waste in India present a significant challenge and also new economic opportunities. So a circular economy in solar PV could boost domestic manufacturing, reduce resource constraint, and increase supply chain security. The resultant elimination of waste can curb the negative environment externalities and result in the new business employment opportunities. We may accordingly intensify our efforts in the technical assessment and the pilot study to a certain specific requirement. So already draft policy for coming up this series for growth of this recycling industry is underway, and a standard is also being formulated, and it is under active consideration of the interministerial consultation, and that will come very soon, because the ultimate objective is to provide a regulatory oversight and establish a circular economy in this solar PV industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable time. If participants are having any doubts or any questions regarding it, you can post it in the Q&A box. Sir can answer it. So we have a question from Mr. Rangaswamy mentioning, how is the government planning to address the issue of solar energy management?
Yeah, solar energy management, we are considering the first we have to divide a clear strategy for clean energy transition, where we have to see the how much penetration from the solar is possible, how much penetration from the wind is possible, what are the other kind of sources which can really help India to achieve the net zero target. So although it is considered that the solar and are the informed power, but how to manage them, how to put them in the best use, whether they can be better utilized in the decentralized manner, or you have to put a storage at the grid level and use that energy in the different time horizon. So these are all being evaluated just after having the COP26 announcement. So all detailed analysis is going on within the government. And very soon we'll come out with the what would be the kind of different mixes of the energy which will be required for achieving the net zero and achieving the clean energy transition pathway.
We have a question from Mr. Gopal Kumar asking like, does government help in establishing the recycling business in India?
Yeah, definitely. As I mentioned, that the several incentive is also being planned, where a government may provide some kind of funding. It can think of the providing BGA. It can think of what could be the financing structure, the different blending of the finances. So all these things are under consideration by the government.
Yes, sir. I hope that's with the question and answer session. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your perspectives on the potential need for solar panel recycling policies. I'm sure we all have gained innovative thoughts about it. And thank you for representing your impeccable knowledge. Hope to associate with you in our future events as well. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
So now let us move to the next event of the day, panel discussion on renewable energy's bright future faces a cloudy reality. Is India ready to handle it? I'd like to give a quick introduction and a warm welcome to our panelists today. Mr. Jaideep N. Malavia, Managing Director of Malavia Solar Energy Consultancy. He'll be acting as a moderator today for the session. And Mr. Vishwanath, Chief Southern Region, PTC India. Mr. Ajay Mishra, Director General, Renewable Energy Society of India, Dr. Akanksha Tyagi, Program Associate from CEEW. Thank you for joining us today. Let us begin this discussion with the vision to innovate our thoughts. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. Am I audible?
Yes,
Am I audible?
you're audible, sir.
Panelists, may please let me know if I'm audible because that's very important.
This is Vishwanath. You're audible.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a galaxy of panelists, right from Dr. Ajay Mishra, Mr. Attaluri Vishwanath. Sorry, please excuse me if I spell it wrong. Dr. Akanksha Tyagi, we have been interacting. And do we also have Mr. Subramaniam Pulipaka? I believe he may be joining a little late.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. Since he's having a meeting with the Ministry office, he'll not be able to join today.
Okay. All right, fine. So, thank you very much, organizers, for inviting me to moderate this very important session. You know, we have been hearing a lot of speakers with their varied opinions in the morning about circular economy. I would say that rather than more on renewable energy or in particular solar energy recycling. So without wasting much of the time, I once again confirm with the organizers we have about how much 40 minutes for panel discussion, and followed by then, you know, what I listened was that the question answer session would be common to everybody, or will it be only for the panel discussion? Okay, no response from the organizer. Anyway, I'll try to.
Hi, sir. Yeah, sir. Actually, Subramaniam sir is also joining now. He'll be here in another 2 minutes.
That's very nice. Nice to see some of our task force committee members in this.
Yeah, he has joined.
And all right, fine. I'll give a very brief introduction about, you know, what all the solar waste management is about. I need not tell, as I said, you know, already we have these experts here, most of them, they are there. However, for the benefit of the audience, let's understand what makes it so inevitable, so imperative that we have to address the issue of solar waste management. We heard Mr. Rajnath Ram from Niti Aayog, a previous speaker, mentioning, why there is a criticality for solar waste recycling, and also the speaker from Center for Materials Energy Technology. India has an ambitious solar power generation target. It's anywhere between 280 to 300 gigawatts they are targeting in maybe by the year 2030. We have already crossed 50 gigawatt today. Or maybe little under 50 gigawatt. I stand corrected on that. We don't have the exact figures. But today, the big question that is looming, where will these 50 gigawatt go at the end of their life? If landfilling is banned, right, then should we allow them to pile up? A preliminary study that we did, these 300 gigawatts, if they are not properly treated at the end of their life, meaning if they are not recycled or whatever you may say, sustainably disposed at the end of their life, they may almost occupy equivalent to 27 Eden Garden cricket stadiums, because cricket is a passion in India, so that one understands very well. Right, or roughly, close to about 22,500 kilometers of container lengths would be occupied if they're left untreated. Today, the big question ahead of us is that why not consider an appropriate solution on this, and we'll have debate on that. I'm sure most of the participants, or all of the participants, have received the debate points or the questions. And wherever you all are not comfortable, that's fine. But where you feel you can provide your inputs, it will be beneficial to the audience, to the organizers. So please raise your hand so that I can see it. You can raise it both virtually as well as you can show a hand if you need so. So the question is, why landfill if it can be repowered? Why landfill it? If the materials can be recovered and can be used back, as secondary materials to produce solar energy products, whatever it be. So maybe the batteries or the modules, whatever we are talking of, it makes sense, isn't it? That's why we are talking of it. Typically, as a country, we have to come out of the throwaway culture. As was mentioned earlier, Prime Minister is very keen that we adopt circular economy rather than the linear economy. So before not taking much of the time and assisting, all these manufacturers to help them achieve the net zero, let's debate on how best we can have solar waste management. So, do you have the questions with you? I'll also read at my end, and those who want to share their opinion, please raise your hand. First is, should solar energy waste be recycled or allowed to be sold as scrap, maybe in secondary market? Maybe Dr. Ajay Mishra, you would like to start since you represent an industry association. And my very good old friend, Mr. Subramaniam. Nice to see you. He's the CEO now. I'm so glad, the young power is going up. So maybe these two can best answer this. Others are also most welcome. What's your opinion on this? Should they be recycled or should they be allowed to be traded as scrap?
Thank you, Malviya ji.
Thank you, sir.
I think I'm audible first to confirm that. I'll start with the statement which will answer this question or this starting point. See, responsible management of PV waste is an indispensable part of sustainable transition to renewable energy. So we do not have an option. We cannot opt to sell the solar waste as scrap. We have to recycle it. How best to recycle it? who could be partners in that, including government, to what extent, that we can debate or discuss. But I don't think we have an option to see, and we are seeing it very well in the electronics waste. We have a policy of electronics waste. Rules are there, but till now only 5%, this is a rough estimate, is coming through the formal channel, the electronic waste. Rest is adding to pollution in different forms in our system. So we do not have an option. We have to have recycling of PV waste. That is my view to start with. Others can share.
Very good. Nice hearing from you.
I would like to state that, yes, I agree with Mishra ji. I have 2 points here. One is the environmental pressure, because we all know what they contain in case they are left as it is, or how they are, what toxic materials are there, and what other materials are there. In addition to that, I think it is a value we create. Some of the components which they have, it is being mined somewhere, it is being transported, it is being refined, and they are all rare commodities. The price which anyone pays, particularly when we are doing manufacturing in India, the domestic PLST manufacturing, many of these raw material will be very, very important to source them. So I think from the circular economy point of view, using this material back after recycling is such an important economic pressure. So it's an environmental pressure as far as those things are concerned, which will damage the Mother Earth, and the economic value which we add by reusing it, and it will be a huge benefit from the PLI scheme point of view. Maybe tomorrow the profitability gap which we are giving to PLI will come down if some of the components recycle into the system. These are my point here.
Well said, well taken.
First of all, thank you to Recommerce for having me here, and it's nice to see many familiar faces. It's long since I met Mishra ji, almost 2 years. Also, Malviya ji is part of the technical committee we have here in the ministry led by Niti Aayog. And most importantly, the question I want to answer here is how happy we are that today recycling has become a mainstream discussion rather than something that is discussed at the confinement of 4 walls. When we started the first report 3 years back, we didn't have a single expert to talk about PV recycling in India. Today, it's very heartening to see that there's a lot of sensitization among the stakeholders. Partly, we should give credit to the government for bringing the narrative. Now, coming back to the main question today, should we allow them to recycle, or should it go and be resold or processed? I think it is better to frame the topic and call it PV waste management instead of PV recycling, because when it is waste management, it can be recycled, reuse, everything. When we are saying PV recycling, then we are only talking about recycling. Today, 2014 report, an academic report I was part of, it states that at least 30% of the modules that come out of their end life cycle can be reused in lower efficiency applications. And there is also a chunk of 40% of the remaining 60% whose raw material can go and become part of remanufacturing the material. But this is for the old technology. Today we are using new technology. So the way we should look at this problem is just not like a 0 or 1 that you do this or do that. But as a country, I mean, we are not a country, we are a subcontinent. For us today, transporting a module from one place to other place is involving a lot of efforts, lot of carbon footprint, and a lot of other allied factors. And when you want to do that again, once the module is used, that is something that we should give a judicious thought about and how it can be addressed. Before I pass on to the next speaker, the key part here which we realized, or rather we learned from the EU context, is that from the beginning itself, the sensitization should be there. The EPR part, which I'm sure will come later today in this discussion, or the responsibility of handling the waste after its end life cycle, how developers view it, how end consumers will be benefited or burdened with it, are the factors that need to be taken into consideration. Today, we have a very strong e-waste rules regulation, and credit where it is due, the regulations are really strong. How they're implemented is a different discussion or debate. So I think the first step would be to establish the kind of applications we have, and then go into giving them option, okay, this. But as a matter of principle, I think all of us should agree, Malviyaji mentioned in the beginning, that we should remove the concept of filling the things on landfill from our mind completely. So that landfilling thing we should fill out from our mind. Then only we can progress as any country. Any waste, solar is just a tip of the iceberg. But any waste we should do. So with this, I would like to hand it over to the next.
Very well said, very well said. So now, we have to be the ambassadors to these manufacturers or the producers and tell them that, look, there is going to be a solution to it. Kindly refrain from any sort of secondary market or, just landfilling it. Well said. All right, let's move to the next question, because you see, I have to maintain time. And if we exceed time, we will be responsible for the carbon footprint. We are consuming some form of energy. I hope you all would agree. And then maybe we can have more and more debates on this. Okay. So the next question quickly, and I would request everybody to be as brief as possible then. Then later maybe, we can send to the organizers our elaborate answers. So the next question is, should this be brought under the electronic waste policy of Government of India, or it should have its own identity as a solar waste policy? Who would like to take that?
I'd like to take that, Malviyaji.
Very nice.
Yes.
Dr. Akanksha.
Yeah, so I think it's a good starting point to have it under the e-waste management policy. I think it will just give the whole industry an indicator that yes, there is a regulation that mandates you to manage your waste. So and that's the most easiest way. If you just recognized all these type of electronic components, because solar PV panels, they're just generating electricity. So why not recognize them as one of the categories in the existing list of e-waste? So that's a good starting point. But having said that, it's important to make necessary changes. Like India's solar industry is a mix of players. We have distributors, importers, original manufacturers. So there has to be made, necessary revisions, but having them in the policy first is a good starting point.
So my question is, should it be part of the electronic waste? Because, then the EPR, as was mentioned earlier, the extended producer responsibility will be mandated. They have to recycle. And today, we don't have solutions.
Definitely. I mean, but it will, as I said, it will give an indicate that capacity needs to be built, investments have to be flown in, technologies have to be introduced. Unless there is an indicator that government is actually thinking about it, which will be through the recognition in the e-waste management policy, all of these developments will be otherwise slow.
Okay. Anybody else?
I have a view.
Right.
I think the electronic waste policy can be the starting point to understand how and what has gone right or wrong in the country till now, because we have to really say that electronic waste policy, the efficacy and efficiency has its own lessons. So let us take the lessons from electronic policy about the disposal, about the formal, informal sector, about the process, logistics, etc. But RE waste, whether you call solar or wind or anything else, is totally a different ball game. The volumes are different, the size is different, the technologies are different. Considering these things, I think it has to be, and particularly when we are talking at COP26 about climate finance and climate justice, I think the international community funding will come in if we have a systematic way of doing this, because we need a lot of funds. It's not an easy job to go forward. I think the climate finance point of view, if we are in sync and line with the systems and processes and standards of international technology or the processes, I think getting the funds also tomorrow will be easy. So it has to be totally looked into a different way, and I feel it should not be with the, but we should take the lessons from the existing policy, but have a totally different way of looking at it, the whole process and the structure.
Well said, sir. हाँ जी, डॉक्टर अजय मिश्रा, आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे? You would like to
can join in, Malviya ji? Yes, Malviya ji. As per present information, there's a crucial difference between electronic waste and solar waste. I'll put it as solar waste. Presently, more than 95% of the solar projects are mega projects, if I can say, if we include more than 1 megawatt as mega, as a criteria, one can differ on that. Whereas in the electronic waste, it is very, very thinly distributed throughout the country. So it's preferable to have all the rules, etc., and it will be better to implement with, say, approximately 300-400 locations all over India today for the producers of solar waste. 90% of the solar waste will be generated at 400 to 500 locations, which is not the case with electronic waste. Even though we have in the electronic rules provision for collectors and all those intermediaries. Second point is, solar panel waste, we have few years, at least if I can say 5 to 10 years before we get sustainable, financially viable quantities of solar waste. So we have time to reflect, we have time to learn from the electronic waste rules and policy, and frame a new policy for solar waste, which will put more responsibility on the producers or the project owners, I'll call it. It could be a mix of both. So it should be a separate thing in the next few years, drawing from the lessons of electronic waste rules and policy.
Well said, well said. I think that's happening, and that's what it has been now realized. There's a task force committee set up, and hopefully, it should be a separate policy. It would be more of called as, a renewable waste management policy, and solar energy will be one of the components of that, because, we have wind energy and various other stuff also coming up. Well said. So the next question, should circular economy for solar energy be the responsibility of producers or the end users? This becomes a big debate. Especially the industry voice, because passing the buck is very easy here today, Once the produce is out of my industry, my factory, it's no more my baby. Let them take care. So they say that, even our consumer goods, when we take, we don't send back to the producer, whether they are the pressure cookers or the refrigerators or our laptops. It is we who have the responsibility. So who would like to take that question?
I can take that question first.
Yeah.
See, I would like to step back a bit when we discuss about the responsibilities. Of course, international, this one says voluntarily, some companies are taking that they will be responsible end of the life quantities and other things. Even in our latest PLI scheme or the SECI tenders, they put the responsibility on the bidder. And bidder in turn is put the responsibility on the original equipment manufacturer. Okay, these things are one thing, but here we are talking about 25 years. And when the contracts after 5 years, 6 years are also not honored in India, we're talking about 25-year contract and then making the original manufacturer, how will be, there will be. So I told I will take a step back is, a feasibility study need to be done on the movement of these goods and where they are being utilized. I think it has to be made as a scheme where a financial model in such a way that whoever does the, if a quantity is given to a particular company, how much of that product he can produce, how much of that has the sales value, where it can be sold. So the revenue model of the recycling industry itself, taking into account how much raw material is flowing as a waste and how we are improving the efficiency over the years of the recovery, and how to make it self-financing and a scheme where it will stand on its own. To start with, the government can have pilots to say that this much of quantity comes in, this is how technology we have tried up, this is how we are improving. Over next 4 years, 5 years, the recovery has increased. So once it is made that way, I think the industry will themselves, it will be a separate industry, like in China it is happening and other things. People will come in get attracted to be in the recycling industry, and then the output can be used back into the circular economy system. So my basic question is that it should be a detailed study can be done and it can be converted into an industry rather than VGP or putting that thing. But to start with, yes, owners, developers have to take the responsibility. But slowly in the next 5 to 7 years, it can be an industry with a clear revenue stream and cost.
Okay, I think slightly deviated from the question, but the issue was, whether it should be the mandate of the producer of the components or the end user. That was the simple thing. Producer. So we, in short, we are trying to tell that, the extended producer responsibility should be a part of it.
Correct.
Anybody else has a quick reaction to that, unless I go to the next question?
I will reiterate or support the same view that it has to be the producer's responsibility. And in say parts of US and West Europe, it is already in practice in the renewable energy sector.
Correct.
Say for the wind energy, I have details wherein the Europe, the operator, they call it there, the producer operator has to include an accounting provision proportional to the size of turbine. A sum starting from 50,000 euros for a small turbine, that means up to 2 million capacity turbine, 2 megawatt. They have to take into account 50,000 euros at the start of the project. So it has to be built in financially from the beginning. And that is the only way, because at the end user level, after 25 years, to ask for money from some, say, the small people will be a difficult task to implement.
Agreed. So what we are coming to is, the polluter pays principle, PPP. Yes. Am I right? That's what we are coming to.
Yes.
Akansha, you have anything to add to that? I think.
Reiterating the same thing and also emphasizing that it's not like end users would be left out of this whole waste management cycle. They are the ones who will bring the waste back into the recycling process. So it's not the regime that the whole waste management regime will identify the owner, like the end users as well as an important pillar. But in terms of just the capacity to recycle and manage the waste, it lies with the producer itself. They have their network, they will reuse the recovered material. So they are best placed in the whole chain. But the end users have their own strengths that they will bring back the waste.
Well, you see here, I'll just slightly refine it. Why, the end user has to be protected. Why we need to protect them is because give us a technology that is self-sustaining. So it is not their fault. And that's why, the producer has to take back or provide a solution which will safely or sustainably dispose of. Otherwise, it is not the fault of the end user. So definitely what the Western world looks at is that it's the producer's responsibility, to come out with a solution that is sustainable or take back. That's how they view it, and that's how the policies are emerging. But and that brings to the point that it would be rather challenging to be made part of the electronic waste, because see, an electronic waste is more of a consumer good, right? Which often tends to get disposed within 3 or 5 years. They tend to reuse it, and there are recyclers available for it. So as of now, I think the best would be EPR. However, we'll go by the industry views. Quickly, I would like to interrupt, I would like to ask the organizers, there is one Mr. G. Naik I am seeing in the panel discussion. Was the part original and does he need to be introduced? Mr. G. Kumar Naik, or is he from the organizers?
Sir, no, he was one of our special address. Like he wanted to participate in the special address.
Okay. Because he's seen on my panel, so I was just wondering. Okay, we move on now. So as you all must be aware, we are close to 50 gigawatt today of installed solar PV capacity, and roughly about 15,000 square meter of solar thermal capacity as well. It's equally important. Let's not ignore. Even that's a solar energy technology. The question is, who bears the cost for sustainably disposing them, meaning recycling them? Big question mark today. Who pays for it? Because manufacturers or the producers had not built in the cost. They can have that argument. Neither the end user says that, there is a policy which mandates me that I have to recycle it. So today, who bears the cost? Who would like to answer that?
I can start with that. Difficult thing, but I'll start. And it will be slightly in contradiction or deviation from the EPR, which we talked about just 1 minute back. Because the costing has not been taken into account by the producer. So it will be unfair to bear this responsibility on the producer for this existing 50 gigawatt. It includes the thermal one also. This will have to be recycled at the cost partly of the consumer, partly of the government. And if we see in next 20 years, after that, this will be a small cost because the same players will partly benefit by the coming business in the next decade, I'll put it, not in the present decade, but in the next decade. However, I see very little possibility of it being recycled in next 10 years. Because most of it has come during last 10 years. Only a very small portion in the first few years, and last 3-4 years, most of it has come. So it takes time, and this is small sector ones, if I call it. They will continue to prolong the life, even though the efficiency of the panels may not be that much, because the electricity will be coming to them free. Today it is 80% or 90% efficiency, whatever projected. Tomorrow it will be 30-40, but I'll continue to use the solar panel which I'm having. But then the producer should not be responsible for this part of the management.
That brings me to the typical jargon which is there, whether the glass is half filled or half empty. Right, that becomes a question. Well, to an environmentalist, what matters is, there is half air in that. At least that should be clean. So I would only put that. Because you see, basically, this is a superconductor which is being left without resistance. It can't be the case. So it's a burden that is piling up on the government. And can we say that it's high time now that at least they announce a kind of a regulation or an order that from now onwards, whatever PV modules or the solar thermal panels are coming in the market, or as a matter of fact, any renewable energy product, the producer has to build in a recycling cost or a waste management cost. Correct?
Yes.
Am I true?
Yes.
Good. So organizers may please note, this could be one of the takeaways that we can give as a recommendation. Next, quickly, I'll move. Unless there are anybody else who wants to share a thought quickly, let me know then. Okay. Very important now. Probably I'm looking at Dr. Akanksha Tyagi now to answer. We have a factor called as early loss. Early loss meaning these modules retire before their scheduled life of maybe 20 years, we take it, not even 25 years now. Or let's say for argument purpose, 25 years. It is anticipated in India that the early loss will happen faster than anywhere else in the world, owing to the quality of the components used. Would you agree? Is this statement correct? Largely, because of the physical damages or, the electrical performance, which may hamper, against the claimed output they may not be giving. In fact, it would even lead to repowering now. That's a very common jargon used globally. That why not go for a very better efficient cells and throw away all these which are underperforming. So who would like to take this?
I'll go first, Malraji. So end of life is definitely a substantive waste stream, especially right now for India. There are various streams of end of waste life, like early end of life. Like there is waste coming from transportation, installation, and during the operations, right? So in India, unfortunately, because of poor handling and not following a proper installation guidelines, we could see a lot of damage occurring during these processes itself, especially with the coming of new technologies where, like there are more of glass contact layers on either side of the modules. So that leads to more breakage. It makes the modules more brittle. So that could lead, an increase in the waste stream coming from the transportation cycle as well. During the operations part also, Indian climatic conditions because of high humidity, very high temperatures, or dust that is accumulated on the panels, they can lead to a lot of hot spots, which can cause some faults that are often irreplaceable. So that is again leading to your early end of life of these modules. So I think I'll stand with your statement that yes, early loss of waste like PV modules is a substantial waste stream for a country like India, where the quality standards are not followed that stringently.
Agree. Even there is in fact a study by IIT Bombay stating that yes, the electrical performance of the modules over a period of time, they will show sharp decline.
Yes.
The degradation, and that may lead to early loss or early retirement.
Right. And often these, these faults are not visible to naked eye. I mean, these are not exactly the physical damages. So unless you see a sharp decline in their performance, you are not really able to figure out where the fault is.
I'll just add one point here, since we are talking technical. There are two types of panels which have come into India in the last 7 to 8 years. The earlier set of panels, which were 4 to 5 years back, the first year degradation is 2%. Imagine the first year degradation is 2%, and then 0.5% year-on-year degradation. In the last 3 years or 4 years, because of the quality assurance and other things, what India is putting pressure on the manufacturers, the first year degradation is 0.7, and year-on-year has come to less than 0.5 or 0.4. So there is an improvement, but as we were just discussing earlier, if these are put stringent into the system, it also helps in the overall improving the efficiency, and the degradation loss in the initial years will be less. Of course, as you said, there are many other ways of loss of transportation, installation, and other things which will flow into the recycling system. Thank you.
Okay, you see, there has been a lot of mention about the IRENA study. In fact, IRENA claims that especially the modules that are imported in India, a lot of compromise has been done on the quality of the cells, owing to the price factor. So there are some claims that okay, if you need a price war, fine, I'm ready to give you a cheaper one, but then the performance could be a question mark. So these are only claims. We don't know. It has yet to be asserted. In fact, it would be good to do a study of some of the existing modules of the major manufacturers, which are 5 years old, 8 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old, to study, are they really following the trend of the electrical performance as claimed? So do we have Mr. Subramaniam left the panel discussion?
So this meeting, he has left the panel discussion. He might be joining if he's
Okay, fine. Fine. So should we go ahead with the next question unless anybody has to add more? Because we have just 2 or 3 of us now. And we have another 5 minutes now. There are 2 more questions I have. So now that, as it is said that the recycling stage has reached a heightened level and it's time that we consider a solution. Should we depend on import of technologies for recycling, or should we practice Atmanirbhar Bharat and do some in-house development? Maybe, spend more R&D on developing indigenous recycling technologies. What are your views on this?
Can I take this question?
Yes.
I think the thinking of the government in the last 7-8 years and the Atmanirbhar schemes, what we have seen, better to have a tie-up and indigenize the R&D. Only the initial tie-ups we should take. We should never depend on recycling facilities or outside, because again we'll be in the hands of all the technology taking us for a ride. I think it's 100% sure that we should only take the initial inputs, technology tie-ups, and totally be an indigenous R&D based manufacturing of recycling. where we can totally use the material coming out, and even if we have to export some of the material, we should export the recycled material, which is very, very vital to us. But technology, for that only I was just mentioning earlier that, but we need to do a very good feasibility study and a business model on, and a Government of India committee with the industry committee can take various, invite various technologies, but it has to be an indigenous technology we develop in the next 4 years. It's not rocket science. We were just looking at CMET Hyderabad facility, where he has shown a table on how much he has recovered on silica, how much recovered on aluminum, how much on the glass, and how much on the other good materials. In other things, we are 90%, 95%, where on important things, he was at 4% or 5%. I think if we improve those important areas, I think we have the game with us. We should be on our own.
I fully agree with you, Mr. Viswanath. I think we have the technical capability. We can develop in-house. We don't need to depend everything on the developed countries, because even the technology transfer costs are very high. And India has already proven, we can create technologies. We are way ahead in IT technologies. Now we are fast progressing even on solar energy technology or renewable, so definitely. Anybody else would like to?
I will just add, Malviya ji.
Yes, sir.
Already one pilot plant is coming up in Gomadipundi in Tamil Nadu for solar recycling. The capacity of that is presently 2.5 tons per day. Actually, and they are confident of increasing it to up to 150 tons per day. And I don't think we'll have that much volume to sustain this kind of a plant for next few years. That few years could be used through institutions like CMET and research institutions to come in with better technologies, indigenously developed, and tie up with the industry can be there. No need to go for foreign technologies which come at a cost hidden and otherwise. So that is my view.
Very rightly said, sir. And in fact, it was a good suggestion, or rather, comment made by Mr. Rajnath Ram of Niti Aayog, that the viability gap funding can be considered by the government. So even if there is a high capital cost involved, the government can be an equity in it.
Yes,
they can help set up maybe 3 or 4 plants on a pilot stage until they attain a commercial stage. So
to that I will add, one of the projections by a French company says that the plant, which is quite modern, will require about 3,000 tons per year of recycling to be financially viable. So, government, in our context, we can have slightly different number game. So up to that, quantity of scale is achieved. Government can think of partnering, government can think of viability gap funding to the plants. Naturally, R&D government should be involved, either through equity or through grants itself, because it is ultimately, whatever is the benefit to the industry, part of it comes back to the government as taxes and other things. So the economies of scale will also have to be seen till the time we achieve that. Related point is to make it viable, the awareness about recycling solar plant has to be taken now, from now onwards, I will put it. See, much in advance, rather than start it when the problem is at our doorstep. Like electronic waste,
very well.
Many of us are not aware that we should recycle it, we just throw it. So that awareness part of it has to be mainly by the government. At a mass level.
I think you answered my first question now. That's why I asked whether they should be recycled or they should be sold as a scrap in secondary market. But yes, definitely. In fact, it can create plenty of jobs. We have to come out with micro units, and it's possible.
Yes.
Because India is a vast geographic country. We can't afford to have a centralized plant. As even Mr. Subramania earlier put it up. They had done a study. The logistics cost would be so high that it will make it unviable to recycle and then resell them in the market. So I'm sure that we can come out with a low-cost technology which is decentralized to a certain region. For example, let's say like a state of Rajasthan, it can have about 3 or 4 such recycling units, which is one of the largest user. Right, as an end user. So those are the areas where really, the government can pump in some R&D. Unlike, in Europe, they are smaller countries. They can afford to have one single unit. And even there, the government supports them with complete funding. Rather, here, we'll have to have a different outlook for it. Anybody else has comments to make on this?
Yeah.
About,
Yes, I actually had some pointers around what kind of technology, recycling technology, maybe India should be focusing on. I think we can leverage on our skills. We have good availability of cheap labor. We have a very fine chemical industry, which is pretty strong. I mean, we are one of the leaders in the world in fine chemical industries. We know our limitations as well. The industrial units are not having cheaper tariffs, electricity prices. So that's the burden that we have. So the technology mix that we are going to investigate or invest into should be a mix of these. We should leverage on all those strengths and also take a point that it's not energy intensive. It doesn't require a lot of machinery, so that we can also provide employment, as you were mentioning, that we can also provide employment to a large youth that we have.
As a matter of fact, I had some of the ITI students coming. I repeat, ITI, not IIT. You know that? The technical institutes, which are, semi-skilled kind of, but they were very excited on this subject, and they said that we can do it.
Yes.
We need a little guidance on that. Maybe if we are provided the technology, we can go to even these sites and deframe them, delaminate. In fact, they even went to that extent. So I think that's possible.
See, another point which I can flag is, which is called the uncertainty regarding the kind of technology which will go into the solar panels in the days to come. I'm talking it from recycling point of view. See, for example, today in Europe, the recoverable cost, the cost of recovery material is about 15 to 20% of the original panel cost. 15 to 20%, including the value of silicon and all those things. So, for example, today part of the cost is the silver recovery. So, if the silver rate goes up or down, the profit margin or the efficiency will be more. Similarly, if the silicon, just I'm telling you, if the silicon cost goes up, the recoverable silicon cost will be more. But if some substitute of silver comes tomorrow for the electrical wiring efficient, then the recovery material cost will be less. See, so those things have to be taken into account. The uncertainty part of it. See, the technology, the way it develops, which element can be substituted tomorrow partly or wholly, and what will be its costing. So the government viability gap funding, to start with for the smaller units, has to be put into place at least for 5 years. Then it can be reviewed depending upon the technology and the financial viability and the amount of solar panels coming for recycling. Second thing also, partly it has been studied, the environmental cost of recycling. That also has to be studied. I don't have any number game on that, but that also has to be built in for the recycling units also. How do they take that into account?
I think, sir, that already the cement people had mentioned that these are few of the challenges. Yes. But then there is a solution to that. I'm sure that will be come out. Just for the benefit of audience, because we are running short of time. What Dr. Mishra said, the recovery rate is in excess of 90%, 90, not 15 or 20%.
No, sorry. What I said, the value.
What you meant to say was the value of the recovery. Probably.
Yes, the value of the recovery. See,
that is pretty high, so nothing to worry on it. The only challenge today to recover is the polymer material, which the Europeans are using the pyrolysis technology, converting to diesel. Right, but hopefully here also we should be able to achieve. It's a costly technology, because already there are a lot of plastic waste recyclers in India now that are emerging. They have accepted the challenge, and we can see in sight this happening. So polymer recovery will not be really an issue in future as it appears. But to wind up, today, considering the entire scenario, recycling is inevitable. We can reclaim the materials. We have imported so much amount of PV modules in India that we can become now Atmanirbhar with the raw materials. And itself, we can fulfill our target much beyond 300 gigawatt if we come out with sustainable, economical recycling solutions and adopt the circular economy in full justice, the maximum recovery. If there are any questions from the audience, I don't know, the organizers will let me know if we have time, because you have a question and answer session, whether it is for this or for all the speakers. But I end this session here, unless any of the speakers would like to give some final comments, very briefly and quickly, unless if there are anything that I missed out, and maybe because you all are also more experts in this.
I think we were earlier, you had briefly touched upon the issue of repowering when we were discussing early end of life. And I had one point to made on that. So repowering will definitely happen for financial reasons. But then there are other second use of use applications for these modules. So wherever the power generation is not linked to revenue, we can, deploy these low efficiency or first generation of modules. We can find such applications. So it not necessarily contribute to an early end of life waste stream. Repowering can definitely delay the waste, and same goes for refurbished or repowered, refurbished modules as well. Just, I think we forgot to discuss.
Good point. But ideally, the Europeans have realized, refurbishing should be avoided, because that can create some issues even in the next generation modules, and there may be leakages happening in that by way of it. But anyway, that can be altogether different topic to debate. So question and answers, please. If there are any for the speakers or other, the panelists from the audience, there is, let me see.
Yes, sir, we have a few questions.
Yes, the organizers may please share the questions if there are.
Yeah, so we have a question like how and where should be the LFP batteries need to be transported for recycling after death, if any process exists?
Well, what I would, good question. I in fact missed out this point that, the batteries and the inverters, they already covered under the respective battery waste management and electronic waste management rules. So they're already there in place. I think you can consult your, whosoever the inverter supplier, they will do it. Sorry, if any of the panelists would like to answer on that, because we don't have any of the manufacturers here, but they would have best answered. But we have people from the industry associations. Do we have Mr. Subramania? No. Okay. Anybody would like to else comment besides that? Batteries, it's very easy. Any battery supplier takes back. Even for your automobile batteries or industrial batteries, the dealers of the batteries themselves take back. They are mandated under the EPR. Does that answer the question?
Yes, sir. Next question is about what about solar concentrated technologies for various use, solar cookers, dryers, and power generation through the solar concentrators?
You mean this is for recycling?
Yes, sir.
Okay, solar thermal system, they are very easy to recycle. They are passive structures. If you talk of solar concentrators, largely they use the glass that reflect over a central place, a focused area, which are all metal based. So they are total sustainable technologies. If that is the question, yes, they can also be a part of the solar waste management. They are easily recyclable. Some of them even use aluminum reflectors. So aluminum is 100% recyclable. Or steel, as a matter of fact, which is coated.
Next question is from Mr. Gururaj. Advice to the new entries on where they need to concentrate in renewable businesses for their country future. Any trainings?
Sorry, ma'am, could you repeat and be a little loud?
Yeah, so any suggestions or advice to the new entries on where they need to concentrate in renewable business?
Can a question be typed in the chat? I think your voice was breaking in between to me. I'm sorry. Or if any of the panelists have understood, they would like to answer.
Shall I repeat the question again, sir? Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any suggestions or advice to the new people on where they need to concentrate in the renewable business?
Well, I don't know whether this question is relevant to the present debate that we have. So I think right now it's more of solar energy which is happening, but it could be any. All renewable technologies are progressing well. Whether we talk of bioenergy, even hydrogen is the future. So it is up to your instincts how best you develop business. But all renewable technologies are doing excellent. We cannot single out this is best. Yes, in the last 5 or 6 years, solar energy has been very, very aggressive amongst all the renewables.
So next question is for Prasad sir. Like when do cement, silicon and lead recovery viable solutions share in market?
Yeah, we already at terms to laboratory scale, we already established it may take 1.5 years to 2 years to get to the reasonable scale. 1.5 years maximum.
So the next question is whether purchaser of solar panel from other countries has roles in recycling the PV waste. Also, whether there is recycling to solar power generation unit.
So what are they trying to let us understand correctly that any solar panel from other countries has roles in recycling the PV waste? Yes, they have to. They become part of the EPR. They are as good as producers in India. If that is the question. See, if you are an importer, as a dealer, if you import a PV panel or a module, you become the EPR.
Yes.
Right? If you have, if I have rightly understood your question, and you will be subject to recycling, not the producer who is in the other country. Sitting in the land of India, it will be your responsibility to take back, and if required, you will have to send back to your country of origin. Now that is where it's going to give impetus to domestic manufacturing. That's the best part. Hope that answers the question of the participant.
Next question is there any incentive schemes for small recyclers so they can easily get into the organized sector?
Well, that you will have to again ask, the government is coming out now with schemes and policies. See, this is a new subject. There are also a lot of learnings. I'm sure there will be some. But you all can apply into several of these schemes that are launched by DST or other agencies that invite. If you have the solutions, why not? There will be some grant in aid available initially.
I think the existing e-waste scheme has solar panels included in that. I think to start with, the e-waste scheme application can go and they can do that with MNRE's cooperation, and I think get it to encourage whoever is coming in. There is a method now because e-waste scheme has solar panels included, so you should enter that route and then get into the next step.
Any PV module recyclers available in market at present in India?
Well, as of now, there is none, but as they said, already in Chennai, there is somebody who has come out with a pilot plan. So we'll have to wait for some more time. Maybe in a couple of years, probably we can see some light of the day where, a recycling unit is operative in India. As of now, at least not to my knowledge, there are any who are offering a solution.
Mr. Prasad has been mentioning one Bangalore group and one Poseidon Chennai group who are already doing on a pilot basis.
And a pilot base, this Chennai-based company, they are in the business, but they are just dismantling. I mean, they are crushing into the business again.
Mechanical.
mechanical only, there have to one more thermal or other steps has to be carried out. It will not have any quite output with that, in fact, because it contains everything, polymers, glass, and everything. It contains one to cut into pieces. So there must be a solution for that. And E-Parisara Bengaluru is also in the business, but as Mr. Malviya mentioned, it may take a year or couple of years to get a viable technology. I'm sure that. In CBET also, many industries also approaching us for that technology. Actually, we are in touch with the industry.
Next question is, what are some of the advantages of solar manufacturers that integrate recycling practices into their business operations?
Could you repeat that question? I don't see that here.
Sir, it's in the chat box. What are some of the advantages for solar manufacturers that integrate recycling practices into their business operations?
Any other panelists would like to take that?
Malivaji, you already answered that question earlier, actually, indirectly. It is the responsibility now onwards of the manufacturer or the developer to take that. So he will be qualified as a number one if he does that. So his business will grow. So
that's why I refrained from answering. I knew that would come up.
Yes.
Okay, well said. That's right. Even I endorse that.
Next question is, who are the government nodal agency for these renewable recycling system monitoring and measurement to make the manufacturer and end user accountable?
So far, there are none, at least, not to my knowledge. These all are happening. I think it's too early. We are getting a lot of experts in the rather than the panelists in the audience now. It appears that. But this is going to shortly come up. Because as I said, this is a new subject. It is not yet streamlined. We don't have so much amount of waste that we need to immediately act as an SOS. But that will happen. As of now, there are none.
No, I'll just try to answer this. See, not specifically for solar waste, but as a general, see, electronic waste and other waste. See, the state pollution control boards, they do monitoring and regulation to different degrees of efficiency. That is, the agencies are there. For solar waste, maybe the same agency may do it in the future, or some new agency can come to monitor and regulate. That will be decided by the policy and the framework as and when it comes in the near future.
But one thing I would like to mention, CMET has already reached some sort of maturity in India in doing this work. MNRE being the nodal agency for development of renewable energy, already 300 kilotons of solar waste is available in the country because of so many wastes which are happening due to erection, commissioning, transport. That is a number, approximately 300. So I think government should come with a pilot project or invite some people to come with the pilot project. This is the right time to learn, as Mishraji was telling, that there is a time for us to, this is a peace time where we do a lot of planning before entering the wartime. I think government should invite one or two pilots with this available material, which is already in front of us, which can be given to that recycler, and CVET's help can be taken, and MNRE can coordinate this. And if in the next 1 year, if we are up with the pilot, I think it will be very clear on where we need to focus rather than all the studies and talks.
If there are any more questions from the participant side, you can post it in the Q&A box.
Okay, so thank you very much, all the panelists. I would like to formally thank you. Let us all convert our now potential energy into kinetic energy now. I think it's time, because we had so much amount of discussion, so much amount of expert comments flowing in. And we are so energized. In fact, this morning I had added my tea with an energy drink. And it happened such that, I forgot my car in the garage. So we are all so charged up today now with this subject. I'm sure that the organizers would come out with some kind of recommendations out of it. And this will have to be a continuing debate. A lot of discussions will have to take place before we come out with the exact solutions, the policy recommendations. So thank you very much once again, and thank you the organizers. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for moderating the session, and also to all the other panelists and speakers who are here today, sharing your valuable time with us, and also giving valuable insights on renewable energy recycling. I hope this is the first time conference is happening on such a topic, and we are planning to have a physical event based on the same topic. The dates will be announced soon, probably in the month of June. We'll be updating about our future events as well. So thank you one and all, sir. Thank you for the continuous support towards Recommerce. Thank you, sir. Now I'd like to invite our founder and director, Mr. Venkatreddy Patel, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Hello, hi everyone. Thank you everyone for being a patient listener and also understanding and putting a lot of challenging questions to the panel. I am audible. Sorry, I think there was a glitch. Hope you're able to hear me, right? Thank you everyone for your valuable time, and also all the participants, especially for posting some interesting questions to all the panelists. I just wanted to answer one of the questions, if you don't mind, just taking not that knowledgeable, but someone asked about the nodal agencies for any of the recycling. Any recycling initiatives are taken. Those initiatives are monitored by the CPCB, but executed by the local pollution control boards. So that is how all my videos. Audio is coming. Let's see, you have stopped.
I think Mr. Venkatreddy Patil has muted.
I'm sorry, there is a technical glitch in the other system which I was addressing from. I hope I'm audible, right? Can I get a response? I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
You are audible. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you everyone for your valuable time. Just to address, someone has asked about the notification. For whatever knowledge I have, like every initiative in recycling which is taken, the CPCB becomes the major rules making body, and the execution body becomes the local PCBs. That is how all the waste management policies have been driven. So I believe that will be the same for even this. I am very grateful and thankful for all of the eminent speakers who are here today. I had a great learning from each one of you. This subject is every subject of recycling. Whenever we start studying it, it seems so interesting for us. And we started this journey 5 years back to give our attention to the industry of all the recycling, as well as the especially with when we started with e-waste. Today we have addressed all the subjects, whether it is through physical conferences or virtual conferences. We will be driving more of physical conferences, because I believe the tangibility is more in the physical conferences, where we can meet, have physical discussions. The energy is more here. It is only learning, but there we get also a chance to network and understand each other's more. So we will come with a lot of physical events going forward. At this point of time, I would thank Honorable Minister Shri Bhagwant Kumaji for making his time and also presenting some facts and figures towards the industry. What is the future proposition in terms of generating the renewable energy, and what will be the challenges when we have an ambitious plan for generating such energies. Thanks for his time. We had Sri Rudrapayaji representing Credil government of Karnataka, and then we had Sri uh, we could not have Mr. Kumar Naik, GIS, Additional Chief Secretary for Department of Energy. But however, we had a representation from there. We thank the same department as well. And we had representation from actually Dr. Chatterjee, Dr. Sandeep Chatterjee was someone who was one of the eminent speakers, but today he had a meeting with the ministers and he gave us last moment Dr. Prasad's number, and we are very thankful that Mr. Prasad made it in spite of the short notice, and we are thankful for your time, sir. And then we have Gopal Krishna Iyer, President, Renewable Energy and Promotion Association. Thank you for your time as well, sir. We had Sri Jaideep Malviya, Managing Director, and also the President for Solar STFI. So he is also heading, and we had a discussion yesterday. Sir has given some inputs. Definitely we'll work towards that in terms of how better we can make things. We had Dr. Akansha Tyagi, sorry, the Program Associate at CEW, and we had Mr. Ajay Mishraji, Director General, Renewable Energy Society of India, and we had Athuluri Vishwanath, Chief South Region, PTC India, and Mr. Subramanya Kulika, CEO, National Solar Energy Federation of India. I thank one and all for your eminent time. This event would have not been successful without our support of all the associations for that matter, starting for MRAI, which has been predominantly working very closely with us. And then we had REPA, we had FWPA, we had NSEFI, we had RARE, and many more to name with. And any initiatives which are taken requires a lot of financial support. So we thank the Karnataka Renewable Energy Department and Green Waves to be supporting this event as event partner and a bronze partner at their scales. Further, we thank the Government of India, Ministry of Electronics and Information and Technology, Ministry of Forest, the Karnataka State Pollution Control Board, and as well as the Bureau of Indian Standards, who are continuously supporting in all our initiatives. I hope you all had a great learning, and we would look forward to connect with you on a regular basis henceforth. And you can join all our social media pages and as well as the Telegram group, which we are only focusing on the renewable and all the other recycling segments, especially on the Recommerce and Recommerce and the reverse logistics business, as well as recycling businesses, which we are focusing on. So a lot of initiatives and thoughts which we discuss, and with some write-ups which we get from eminent speakers, we post there. So you can be active on that group and learn, and also help us with your learnings too, and share with the entire community. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your time today. We conclude with
Jai Hind.
Jai Hind. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone.